A passport to the future, and the seed of generational change. Through education, we reflect on yesterday and define tomorrow. UNISA stands at the pinnacle of education through open distance e-learning with a footprint of students in 130 countries worldwide. Rooted in South Africa and the African continent, UNISA can truly claim to be the African university in the service of humanity. Since the founding of the university in 1873, as an examining body, we have been a trailblazer. UNISA is the first and only institution in South Africa to carry our country's name with pride and the first public university in the world to exclusively teach by means of distance education, an ever-changing dynamic university with a global reach. UNISA's history spans the entire modern history of South Africa, opening up a world of academic study opportunities to former activists and struggle heroes, thought leaders, business people, legal experts, acclaimed entertainers, and sports stars. The university takes pride in the more than 900,000 alumni, making their mark in diverse fields and capacities. At UNISA, the World Wide Web is our educational playground, but we also have beautiful and impressive campuses. UNISA's Makelneek campus is located in the city of Tshwane and is a major landmark of the capital city. We encouraged our students to communicate with the university via online platforms, but you can visit the UNISA's Sunnyside campus, the perfect setting for students to engage with fellow students over a cup of inspiration. The Science Campus in Florida, Johannesburg, is designed to meet the education and research needs of students in a range of programs, including agriculture, nature conservation, consumer sciences, engineering, computing, and physics, to name a few. Students in the sciences now have access to UNISA's own laboratories, housing some of the most state-of-the-art infrastructure and laboratory equipment available. Distance learning requires that you study at your own time and in your own space, but that doesn't mean you're on your own. You can also visit a UNISA regional center to get advice, meet other students, make use of UNISA services, have conversations with counselors, and use our academic libraries. We offer an unparalleled range of study choices, ranging from short courses and certificate programs to 3- and 4-year degrees, diplomas, as well as master's and doctoral degrees, with close to 380,000 current students. Our rich tapestry of study disciplines includes the College of Accounting Sciences, Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, Economic and Management Sciences, Education, Graduate Studies, Human Sciences, Law, Science, Engineering and Technology, and the Graduate School of Business Leadership, as well as the Thabo Mbeki School of Public and International Affairs. As a comprehensive open-distance e-learning pioneer, UNISA is known for delivering well-designed, interactive study material and integrated student support. Students have access to a menu of support services ranging from face-to-face tutorials and academic literacy services to study groups and e-tutors. One of UNISA's main aims is to harness the new and emerging potential in information and communication technology, catapulting the university into a truly digital future. To this end, examinations are conducted on college-specific exam portals and are accessed from the My Exams portal. UNISA is well placed to address society's most demanding challenges by using research to meaningfully transform the lives of those in our communities. To that end, UNISA is working towards instituting the following catalytic niche areas: marine studies, aviation and aeronautical studies, automotive studies, energy studies, space study and square kilometer array, fourth industrial revolution and digitalization, natural sciences, health studies or medicine, feminist, womanist, Bosadi theorizations, and student support and co-curricular activities. As Africa's leading open-distance e-learning university, UNISA strives to keep up with the constantly evolving higher education landscape in order to serve our students to the best of our ability. We can reflect with great pride on the past 150 years of transformational education, and we are confident in our ability to succeed and become a truly high-performance university as we define tomorrow.
Side note, because I see everybody's now rushing in. Please, fellow attendees, please keep your mics and cameras muted. This is to ensure that we have a smooth and pleasant workshop without any distractions. Okay. This is our program for the day. We have an exciting event ahead of us with an array of renowned speakers who will be presenting much needed information. Is it Matiba? Please, thank you. Thank you for muting your camera. Okay, so we will have an array renowned of speakers who will be dispensing much needed information that will hopefully guide your academic and professional decisions going forward. Before I say too much too soon, I would like to bring to the fore Ms. Ngimandla, who will formally usher us into the workshop with a warm opening, welcome, and purpose. Fellow attendees, please mute your mics. Please make sure your mics are muted. Miss Pinky, are you there? Miss Pinky, are you there? Okay. Can't seem to get a hold of Miss Pinky Mandla for our opening. Let me just try to see if we can get a hold of her quickly.
Pinky is there, colleagues. Let me check her quickly.
Okay, thank you. Please be patient with us, fellow attendees, please, as we try to get a hold of Ms. Pinky Mwandla, who will doing our opening. Please be patient with us. We'll really appreciate that. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. Pinky is not fine. She's in the bathroom right now. I was checking her. Let me do it. Thank you, Program Director. Good morning, our students, colleagues. My name is Masara Medipale, a student counselor from Val. It is a great honor to extend a warm welcome to you all. I would like to welcome our distinguished speakers, which I don't have a list now. The purpose of the workshop is for students to connect with psychology professionals and the Department of Labor so that they can know what is expected of them. Thank you, colleagues, and thank you, our lovely students. You are welcome in our workshop. Thank you. Over to you, Program Director.
Thank you, Mr. Bale. Now that you've blessed us with a warm welcoming, I trust we'll have a great session. Without wasting any more time, I'd like to welcome our speaker for the first segment of the workshop, Mr. Sipho Malefo. But first, I'd like to confirm if he's with us. Mr. Malefo, are you with us? Because we struggled to get a hold of him earlier on. Mr. Malefo? Okay. It seems like he's not with us at this present moment, but we will continue with the second segment of our workshop and we'll circle back to him. Okay, so to start off, we will now be introducing Ramasela Ndlala from the Health Professions Council of South Africa. So they will be presenting for us from the HPCSA. Ramasela Ndlala, are you there?
Yes, I am present in the meeting. And good morning to everyone on the platform, students, guests, and you colleagues at UNISA. We are going to do our presentation. It is a long presentation, but I will just, try and actually summarize, but I will actually do the intro as well as the few slides of the presentation. And then I'm not alone. As introduced, my name is Ramasela Ndlala. I am the manager in the Education and Training Division within the HPCSA. And I am with my colleagues, Matsidiso Mohole. She is the Education and Training Coordinator, responsible for psychology examinations, as well as other matters in terms of our evaluations. You will understand and hear as I present how we are actually separated or actually doing the function of the psychology board within the HPCSA. We also have Florence Mtebule. She's also our education and training coordinator. You might ask yourself, why so many people, responsible for psychology board? This is a very big board within the HPCSA. We've got a whole lot of professions that you will see today as we are presenting, and they will also have a part in this presentation. I'm just going to do the first slides to actually make you understand about the HPCSA's framework as well as the act that actually governs us to regulate the profession. Can you please make the slide mode, Matsidiso? Okay, so basically the education and training within the Health Professions Act of South Africa exists to fulfill a mandate that is in the Health Professions Act 56 of 1974, and that specific section is section 16, which is control over education. So basically this section indicates that there is no person or any higher education institution, either private or public, can actually offer any qualification that leads to the HPCSA registration without recognition by the HPCSA. And it further states that any person or an educational institution
You are muted, ma'am.
Oh, I think someone muted me because I did not mute myself. Apologies about that. I don't know where I have left you. Okay, let me start because I don't know where you lost me. So basically, subsection number 1 under control over training indicates that there is no person or a higher education institution, either private or public, can offer a professional qualification that leads to registration with the HPCSA, and in this instance, it's psychology, can offer any program without approval of the board. And any person or an educational institution that wishes to offer such training or a program must apply with the psychology board and get approval before the training can take place or a program can be offered in an institution. Subsection 3 indicates that the professional board that is concerned, and in this instance is psychology, will have to grant that approval, and they are at liberty to refuse such application that is not compliant with our regulation. And obviously those must submit the documentations that are going to be perused. If they do not meet the standard, therefore they cannot be given an approval. And obviously, based on the law, if such people are found to be offering a program that does not lead to registration, shall be guilty of an offense, or on conviction liable to a fine or even imprisonment. Next slide, Matshidiso. So the previous legal framework was speaking to the approval of the programs that leads to registrations with the HPCSA. This specific legal framework, it's our section 25, which is also found in the Health Professions Act of 56 of 1974, which refers to the board examination. In this profession for psychology, there is a prescribed board examination that students need to write in order to register with the HPCSA. So it is important that you understand that this is contained in our regulation, and a professional board may require a person who holds any foreign qualification or even the qualifications in our country that are not prescribed. And such people who applies for registrations in terms of this section, they have to pass to the satisfactory of the professional board on a date and a place that is determined by the professional board. And you will understand when Matshidiso speak to the board examinations in terms of how we run those examinations and how often do they take place. So those are also determined by the board. So before a person appointed by the board, the professional board, for the purpose of determining whether such person possesses adequate professional knowledge, skills, and competence, and whether he or she is proficient in any of the official language of the Republic of South Africa. Obviously, those are some of the requirements that are set in the regulation. And the council, obviously council do this through the Professional Board of Psychology, determine the nature of the evaluation. Evaluation here, we are talking of a professional board exam. And they also said the requirements for admission to such an examination and any other matter that is related to this evaluation, which is an examination. And they also are responsible, the professional body is also responsible to determine the number of attempts as well as the fee that is payable for such an examination that is to take place. I am going to stop here and request Matshidiso Mogole to continue with the presentation. And maybe my request, Chairperson, our program director, is that we request that we do the entire presentation, and if there are any questions, because I can see it's a whole lot of people on the platform, maybe my request would then be to collate those questions, if possible, from the students and maybe send them through to us so that we can attend to them and send you feedback if that is doable on your side. I thank you.
Okay, so regarding the questions, what we're going to do, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end, but in the meantime, we encourage students to put their questions in the chat box, and then I'll then highlight them for you so that you can answer them, or even if you have the time, you can go into the chat box and try to attend to them in the meantime. Will that be okay?
that will be okay. But I actually thought maybe we are going to do something. I know the question and answer, sometimes we might not be able to respond all the questions on the platform. We are opening this platform to send us those, and then we address them. Then you build sort of that's what I was intending to do. But that's fine. We will attend to them as and when they arise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Matshidiso, you may continue with the presentation. You are muted.
I apologize about that. I'm projecting, so I had challenges with sharing the screen. I believe I'm audible now.
You are audible.
Yes,
Can you
ma'am.
please go to the presentation mode?
Okay. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, students. I hope this will be a very fruitful and informative session from the HPCSA. But as the manager has indicated that we are going to be engaging further on this, we'll be able to respond to questions either today or via email. We will just see. Okay, I will be taking you through the guidelines for universities, the training placements, and intern psychologists. For one to be a professional psychologist in South Africa, and that would lead to registration with the Health Professions Council of South Africa, particularly the Psychology Board, there are formal academic requirements stipulated that needs to be satisfied for professional education in psychology. They must be completed as well as the relevant internship, and full certified documentation is essential for registration. Universities are also obliged to provide candidates entering the professional degree in psychology with the following details concerning registration at the time students enter academic courses, which lead to registration. Universities are also required to also remind candidates of the registration requirements towards the end of the first year of the directed master's degree course, because intern psychologists are legally required to register with the professional board for psychology prior to commencing with the internship. When they are doing their M1, normally within the first 4 months of first year of masters, they are required to register their internship. And for one to register the internship, it needs to go via the route of the board to get approval. And my colleague will further fully explain all the details relating to internship. The intern psychologist together needs to ensure that they find a supervising psychologist as well as the site where the internship will be conducted. Within the Register of Psychology in the Health Professions Council, we have 8 categories. We have clinical psychology, counseling psychology, educational psychology, industrial psychology, neuropsychology, research psychology, registered counselor, and psychometry. I will be touching on the registration paths of the different categories. If you'll note with the upcoming slides that particularly for psychology, they are similar, but I will just explain this one. For clinical psychology, in order for one to become a clinical psychologist in South Africa and be registered with the professional board for psychology, like I indicated, formal academic requirements needs to be satisfied. A person without valid registration as an intern clinical psychologist may not be registered as a clinical psychologist. Comprehensive and notarized documentation as set out below is required for registration as an intern psychologist. The following documents need to be submitted to the board to ensure registration as a clinical psychologist. We need a notarized master's degree certificate, which indicates that the academic requirements for the master's degrees have been completed, or written confirmation by the registrar of the university that the degree is to be awarded at the forthcoming graduation ceremony. Master's degrees that are offered by dissertation only do not qualify the candidate to apply for registration. The internship duty certificate is Form 27 that can be accessible on the Health Professions Council of South Africa's website. Is Form 27 PSY. It indicates that the internship has been satisfactorily completed. The internship duty certificate must be completed and signed by the following functionaries: the HOD of psychology of the collaborating university, or his or her official deputy university-based supervising psychologist, the head of department of the internship training institution, or his or her official deputy or supervising psychologist, the administrative head of the institution, or his or her official deputy. The application form for registration is Form 2 for PS. This is for clinical psychology. If you can check the next slide, is the information is the same, but only the forms will vary. But however, the requirements will be the same. This is counseling psychology, educational psychology. Also, it's the same path. Industrial psychology, same path as well. Then we've got research psychology. Now this is a bit different. In order for one to comply with the conditions for registration in this category, for persons who did not complete an internship, they must satisfy all three requirements of the following criteria. Research training, they must have a research master's degree in psychology recognized by the Professional Board for Psychology, or a doctoral degree in psychology awarded on the basis of research. A research experience must be employment for at least 18 months in full-time research post in psychology, or employment for at least 3 years in lecturing or research post in a university department of psychology. And the research competence requested is at least 20 peer-reviewed publications in psychology, which were peer-reviewed, and 10 publications in psychology must be accredited by the South African Journal of Psychology and rated by the National Research Foundation. Then we also have another category that falls within psychology, which is neuropsychology. We did not prepare anything much for this, but and we are aware that there might be students who would be looking and following that path in future, they may send us email and indicate the specific pointers that they need. We will be able to respond to those on email. Then the other category that we have is a registered counselor. The registration path for this category is that a registered counselor is contingent on completion of a bachelor's degree in psychology that has a 480 credit qualification with an exit level of NQF level 8, a bachelor honors degree or the equivalent of the BPsych degree that incorporates an approved 6 months or 720-hour face-to-face practicum. This is referred to as BPsych honors equivalent program. Students must have successfully completed an approved 6 month or 720-hour face-to-face practicum. Counseling hours must be recorded in a logbook and countersigned by the supervising registered counselor. The other category that we have is psychometrist, and the registration path for this one is contingent upon completion of an accredited 4-year bachelor's degree in psychology or BPsych equivalent in psychology or related psychology field. For an example, industrial or educational psychology that incorporates an approved 6-month, 720-hour face-to-face practicum. And practical hours in the application of psychometry must be recorded also in a logbook and countersigned by a supervisor. We'll be talking about the national board examinations now, as this is one of the other requirements that potential psychologists would need to satisfy before they can be fully registered as either psychologists or registered counselors or psychometrists. The national board examinations are conducted 3 times in a year, and we've got opening dates and closing dates. Applications are currently open now for the June board examinations, and they will be closing at the end of April. So when you go to the website, there are dates stipulated each year as to the specific dates of the exams. The closing dates for application to sit for examinations are for December For February, the closing date is 31st of December. And for June exam, like I've just explained, is the 30th of April. And for the October examination, the closing date is the 31st of August. All candidates who wish to sit for the board exam must apply in writing at least 2 months prior to the date of the examination for their names to be included on the examination list, and the examination fee is as per the latest gazette. More information relating to the specific fees is on the website, indicating also the study guides, how to prepare for the examinations. Everything is included on the website. Students are informed, are encouraged to check the website for more information relating to the board examinations. My colleague will be taking over from here. Thank you. Hello?
Hello.
Am I okay? The silence got me worried to think
Yes,
that
it's
I've been
audible.
talking
Okay,
along all this
sorry,
time.
sorry about that, Matsidi. So I was muted.
Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity. Good morning, UNISA Psychology Academy, guests, and all the students. As mentioned, my name is Florence Mtebule. I recently joined the psychology department of the HPCSA. I'm going to be talking to the more on the internships in the psychology field. We have the following internship categories.
Hello.
Florence, I think you are muted. We can't hear you.
Again. Oh no. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you, colleagues. I think I'll just start from the beginning. My name is Florence Mtebule. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to the UNISA Psychology Academy. Good morning, guests and everyone involved. I'm going to be focusing more on the internships under the psychology unit. We have internships in the following categories of psychology: educational psychologists, clinical psychologists, counseling psychologists, research psychologists, and industrial psychologists. Now, the academic requirements for internships in psychology, the minimum requirements is a 5 years full-time formal education in psychology, which will comprise a 3 years bachelor degree majoring in psychology, a postgraduate degree in psychology, that is an honors degree, and a master's degree program of that relevant category or equivalent to a 5th year study in psychology. Now, an applicant who completed a full-time period of 5 years study may then seek internship training in the relevant category of professional psychology. In circumstances where academic studies are not as outlined as above, but are believed to be equivalent to the above formal requirements outlined, applicants may submit details to the Professional Board for Psychology for consideration. In such cases, there is a form number 91, which must be completed in full. I'll encourage students to regularly visit our website, familiarize themselves. There's a number of forms targeted at various registrations on the internship site. It is required to apply for acceptance of individual applications of alternatives to the formal academic study stipulated at least 3 months before the date on which it is hoped to commence the internship, because the process involves approval of the board. No internship is supposed to commence without the approval of the board. The board has various committees. There's a number of stages that we have to go through before the internship is approved. We therefore encourage students, practitioners to lodge their applications and make yourselves aware of the various closing dates as stipulated in our website. Now, if such an application is accepted by the Professional Board for Psychology, It is the responsibility of the applicant to find a place in an internship training program. We do have in our databases a list of accredited internship training sites that practitioners should familiarize themselves with. A moratorium has been placed on second internships following an integrated master's degree. Next, TD. The registration and annual fees for internships. Before commencing the internship, the candidate is obliged to register with the Professional Board for Psychology as an intern psychologist. Where already accredited internship placements are involved and the academic prerequisites are not in doubt, a grace period of 1 month is allowed for completion of the registration. Now, the onus rests on the candidate to ensure that he or she is registered and receives a registration number. We do have a registrations department, which I encourage practitioners to familiarize yourselves with. They're usually the first front line kind of step that you need to consult with. In addition to a registration fee, an annual fee is payable and due on the 1st of April of every year. When the registration fee is rendered, the exact date of commencing of the internship must be clearly stated. This is also the applicant's responsibility to ensure that the Professional Board for Psychology receives the payments. Late registration and non-payment of annual fees will incur penalties and will result in the removal of the name of the intern from the register for intern psychologists. Now, on professional registration, this may only follow registration as an intern psychologist. A person without valid registration as an intern psychologist may not be registered as a professional psychologist. Therefore, it is important for interns to retain their registration by paying the annual fees until they qualify for registration as psychologists. The fees are also stipulated in our website. We also have a gazette, so the fees are not static, they are gazetted from time to time. I will encourage practitioners to familiarize yourselves with those fees so that you pay the correct amount. If an internship was followed without valid registration as an intern, the internship will not be recognized by the board and the individual can be legally prosecuted. The psychologist that has supervised the unregistered intern will then also be liable to disciplinary action by the board. We have what is called an internship duty certificate. My colleague already alluded to it. On successful completion of the 12 months internship, the intern duty certificate, form number 27, must be duly completed and signed by the head of the department or section concerned, of the institution or his official deputy or supervising psychologist, the administrative head of the institution, or his or her official deputy, the head of the Department of Psychology of the supervising university, or his or her official deputy. If an internship has been completed but the intern has not complied with all the requirements for registration as a psychologist, registration as a psychologist will obviously not be permitted. Those in this situation may not practice as either an intern psychologist or as a psychologist, nor may they be employed as such by any institution or a psychologist in private practice. The intern duty certificate has to be submitted to council together with the application form for registration as a psychologist. All applications for internships have to be accompanied by the following documents. Firstly, a written undertaking from the supervising psychologist who is registered with the council in the relevant category, who is in good standing, and it must state that he or she is willing to act as a supervisor for the intern and state the period of the internship that will be involved. A requirement to act as a supervising psychologist is a minimum of 3 years appropriate practical experience. A written undertaking, that's now the second requirement, a written undertaking from the head of the training organization or institution, indicating that the named intern will be accommodated for the period of internship arranged, giving the dates. A written undertaking from the head of Department of Psychology stating that the university concerned will act as a collaborating university in association with the internship setting and the date of the internship. And in order to act as the collaborating university, the university must offer recognized master's degree education in the applicable category. It is the joint responsibility of the supervising psychologist and the head of Department of Psychology to ensure that the supervisor's reports on the intern are received timeously. In cases where the internship is completed at more than one training institution, the duration of each placement should be clearly stated. The timing of internships. Like I mentioned, the internship may only commence after completing the prerequisite formal academic requirements. That is, experience which predates the formal academic requirements will not be recognized as part of the internship. It has to be academic compliance. An internship must commence within 2 years of completing the first year of a directed master's degree. In exceptional circumstances, the professional boards for psychology may permit a longer lapse of time, provided the university consent supports the application in writing, and the professional board for psychology, through its education and training committee of the board, then finds a fully motivated application acceptable. A maximum period of 1 year after completion of an internship will be allowed for completion of the dissertation of the master's degree. An extension of 4 months will be granted from date of expiry of the 2-year time frame, subject to receipt of a letter from the university confirming that the dissertation has been handed in for final examination. It is important to note that interns who are not in a position to register within 2 years and 4 months from date of registration as an intern have to complete a further approved and uninterrupted internship of 3 months duration. Those that will exceed the time frame for registration by 3 to 4 years must complete a further approved and uninterrupted internship of 6 months duration. Those that have exceeded the time frame for registration by 5 years must complete a further approved internship of 12 months duration. Now, the internship training arrangements, as mentioned, the prescribed minimum period is 12 months of full-time training, in which no more than 4 weeks may be taken as leave or as sick leave. Training can only be recognized if it takes place in an approved institution on a full-time basis, that is 40 hours per week over a minimum period of 12 months. The internship training must be within the specified registration category for which the candidate has prepared in the first year of a directed master's degree. The internship may comprise either full-time employment as an intern psychologist at an institution that is accredited by the Professional Board for Psychology, following a stipulated program of training, or undertake a specially tailored internship program which has been approved by the Board of Psychology before commencing. Part or all of this internship may not be undertaken at an accredited institution unless this forms part of the approved specially tailored internship program. Specially tailored internship programs must be submitted to the board for approval at least 3 months before the date of commencement of the internship. During the first term of internship, only a full-time period of not less than 6 months will be recognized, and thereafter only full-time periods of not less than 3 months. If an internship is interrupted due to illness, for instance, during the first term of internship, only a full-time period of not less than 6 months will be recognized by the professional board, and thereafter only full-time periods of not less than 3 months. This must be done with the permission of the board. All requirements for registration as a professional psychologist must be completed within 2 years of date of registration as an intern psychologist. Tidi? Should an intern require sick leave or leave for any other reason in excess of 4 weeks? In excess of the 4 weeks permitted, the administration of the training requirements is the responsibility of the supervising psychologist of the training institution. What we mean is that the period of internship must be extended in order to comply with the above requirements. Applications for such an extension must be submitted to the Board of Psychology for approval. Registration as an intern psychologist is permitted for a maximum period of 2 years. The second year of registration as an intern is permitted to enable the intern to complete outstanding academic requirements. The performance of any act of a psychological nature or professional registration as a psychologist will not be permitted. Those in this situation may not practice as either an intern psychologist or a psychologist, nor may they be employed as such by any institution or psychologist in private practice. Please take note that any training which is not based in an accredited training institution must be approved by the Board of Psychology before the said training commences, and that the detailed program must be provided for each such intern placement at least 3 months before commencement of the internship. Now I'm going to talk to specially tailored internship programs, the application of which must be confirm the dates of commencement and completion of such training. And such supervising psychologists shall meet the requirements for supervision as contained in this document that I previously alluded to that. The following information must be submitted with the application to the Board of Psychology for approval of the tailored internship. Complete details of the program in the form of a week-by-week schedule, which stipulates the total number of hours and percentage of time allocated to each activity, including details of the type of training activity and the client spectrum involved. Secondly, the specific psychological tests used and/or skills which will be developed, techniques in which this training is to be provided, and full-time based details of individual and group supervision arrangements, which is to be provided. Details of experience of teamwork with other professionals or colleagues is also important. The internship program has to reflect 52 weeks, including leave days. Interns in private practices, a maximum period of only 3 months of any specially tailored internship program may be served in a private practice, in which case the private practitioner must comply with the requirements above to act as a supervising psychologist. In no circumstances may an intern work in or be employed in a private practice as an intern or as a psychologist unless this arrangement forms part of an internship training program which has been formally approved by the Board of Psychology. Now, on completion of the internship, there's a form which we call the Intern Duty Certificate, Form 27, which must be submitted to the Professional Board for Psychology by the relevant supervising psychologist for each training placement. These certificates should be handed to the intern by the supervising psychologist for submission to the Professional Board for Psychology by the intern psychologist, together with the application for professional registration as a psychologist. So in other words, this intern duty certificate is a very critical pre-requirement for registration as a psychologist. Training institutions and the supervising psychologists are obliged to ensure that the intern psychologists are evaluated regularly, at least every 4 months, according to the criteria for intern training in the relevant category. The intern must then be kept informed of his or her progress on the basis of this evaluation, and copies of the progress reports must be sent to the supervising university and retained for the use of the Professional Board for Psychology if required. The remuneration of interns psychologists is to be mutually agreed between the training institution or alternative site of internship and the intern. The professional board for psychology supports the principle of paid employment of interns because the services that they will be rendering during the internship program are of value to the institution. Internship training may not be extended beyond 12 months training period without prior approval of the professional board of psychology, and a maximum of 2 years of registration as an intern is permitted. It is generally the case that internship extensions are only granted for training purposes. For example, where an intern needs further experience and instruction in a specific aspect, and there will be a limitation of 6 months on the extension of an internship. In cases where unsatisfactory performance by the intern is experienced, a written report should be produced by the training institution together with the supervising university and should be submitted to the education committee of the professional board for psychology with recommendations for either the termination of the internship at a given date or the extension of the internship with clearly specified objectives, such as an application for the extension to be submitted not later than following the second progress report or the 8th month of the internship, preferably earlier if possible. Should an intern psychologist become mentally or physically incompetent to perform psychological acts as is required professionally, the matter should be reported to the relevant committee of the board, and the committee will investigate the circumstances and will provide guidance on the treatment and rehabilitation of the intern psychologist or deal with the matter as circumstances dictate. Now, on the training and supervision of interns, the supervising psychologist must obviously be registered with the HPCSA for at least 3 years and must have demonstrated competencies in that field. The supervision of interns requires that the supervising psychologist is accessible and available for personal contact for at least 1 hour on a weekly basis or 2 hours every second week. Telephonic access is acceptable in exceptional circumstances, but the actions of the intern psychologist remain the responsibility of the supervising psychologist in these circumstances. These colleagues will obviously be mentioned in the program. In the case of a tailored internship program, the mode of supervision will be clearly stated and will have been approved by the board, and the report should reflect that same mode of supervision that was proposed. A ratio of 10 interns to each supervising psychologist may not be exceeded. Where the ratio requirement cannot be adhered to, the professional board for psychology must be approached for approval of such arrangements. The collaborating function of the supervising university implies a half-yearly meeting between the university psychologists in the relevant category of registration and the interns. It also implies monitoring the interns' progress reports as the training institution or training supervising psychologist submits them. If an intern fails to comply with the requirements set by the university or the training institution or training supervising psychologist to deliver to the training program as endorsed by the professional board for psychology, the university is then required to take immediate action to ensure that the training is satisfactorily conducted. The frequency of supervision of interns psychologists is at least 1 hour face-to-face meetings weekly or 2 hours every second week. We need to, Tsidi. Are you projecting, Tsidi? Matsidiso? I think, colleagues, I was on second but last slide, and I believe we will make the slides available. And I want to thank you for listening to the presentation. And I also wish to mention that we are always available to attend to any queries you might have. And I want to thank you for this opportunity. Have a good day.
Program Director, maybe before you come in, I just want to indicate that I've been responding to some of the questions on the chat, and I note there are quite a lot, and I've actually provided email addresses for the colleagues that are responsible for psychology within the division, so that individuals can also send their individual queries. But most importantly, our website also have full, rich information that you can learn about the profession and also know your pathway, because as I pick up from the chats, there are a lot of questions in terms of, you know, the pathways. People do not know when do they do an internship, after what, and Matsidiso alluded to that, but I know in settings like this, people might not grasp all the information, but you are encouraged to contact us. We will then respond to individual questions, but we will also take the questions and answers at the end. Thank you, Program Director.
Okay, thank you very much for that. It's noted. Please, guys, be mindful. In the chats, they've posted their email addresses. Should you have any questions specific to anything that they've presented, so please feel free to send them any emails, because I also have noticed that there are a lot of inquiries. So please feel free to send them any emails. And I really do appreciate you guys attending to our questions in the chats as well. So thank you to our presenters from the HPCSA for that amazing and informative presentation. Please, guys, don't be afraid to show appreciation to our speakers. You know, please react and give them a round of applause, the hearts and everything. Thank you. Thank you very much. I trust that our students have gained so much information and a thorough understanding of what will be required of them should they decide to register with the HPCA and practice under any of the various categories in psychology. So I saw someone had their hand up. To conserve as much time as possible, whoever has their hand up, I think it's Tabang, if I'm not mistaken, please, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end, but if you want your question to be attended to, you can post it in the chat or send it to one of the emails that we'll put here, because right now, if we attend to your hand, we won't have enough time. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so our next speaker, we have a representative from the Department of Labor. At first, we had Mrs. Mkansi, but because she couldn't join us today, Mrs. Jessica Bachu, if I'm not pronouncing it wrong, will be standing in for her. Okay, so she's a registered counselor with a BA Honours in Psychology from Rhodes University. Okay, she was previously employed by the South African Police Services, and right now, as a registered counselor, she deals with crisis intervention, individual and group counseling, trauma debriefing, screening, referrals, management of psychosocial cases, and the list goes on and on. Very impressive profile. Okay, so she is currently employed at the Department of Employment and Labor as an assistant director for the Employment Counselling National Head Office in the branch, Public Employment Services. Okay, guys, so please let me check if she's in for us. Miss Jessica, are you around?
Good morning, Program Director. Yes, I am available and ready on my side. I see Mamashu is there. We go. Yeah, so I'm ready. As soon as you are, you can just give me the go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. The platform is all yours, ma'am.
All right. Okay, so thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and it's a great honor for me to be stepping in for my colleague Ursula. It's a very insightful platform. As the colleagues from the HPCSA team were presenting, it took me back, way back to my young days, and I'm like, wow, I remember all of this. So yes, very powerful information. So I'm hoping that my presentation too will be of some value to some of the students. So without further ado, if you can move to the next slide. Thank you. Just to explain, because a lot of people don't know what the Public Employment Services branch is all about. I'll be very honest, when I was a captain in the police as the provincial manager, I was applying for jobs here and there, and I I applied for my current position. I got into the position, and only then did I realize that I'm actually with a specific branch within the department. And I didn't know about this branch before. So it's actually quite exciting that I can actually explain what our branch is all about, because when people hear of Department of Employment and Labor, they only think about UIF, Compensation Fund, COIDA, you name it, labor-related issues and services. So to bring you to my branch where I'm designated in currently, the Public Employment Services, abbreviated version, we normally use the term PES, is a branch, also a very imperative branch within the Department of Employment and Labor. And since our president, Cyril Ramaphosa, changed our department's name. Previously, it was just Department of Labor. Now it's Department of Employment and Labor. Since then, our branch has received a lot of recognition, and we're finding more and more on a daily basis that both employers and work seekers are coming forward to seek our services, which is quite great. So just to explain the purpose behind PES. PES provides assistance to companies and workers to adjust to changing labor market conditions and to regulate private employment agencies. That's just in a nutshell. All right. So you can basically say that, yes, we are similar to a recruitment agency. It is also very important to note that our services are free of charge to both employees and employers. Employees, this should have been work seekers, my apologies. Our services are free of charge to work seekers and employers. PES employs a large number of psychology graduates, and we consist of 2 chief directorates. So what's easy to remember about PES is PES basically has 2 legs. The 2 chief directorates, I like to refer to them as the 2 legs of PES. The one is Work Seeker Services, and the second chief directorate is Employer Services. So I think in the names themselves, it would be self-explanatory as to what the 2 chief directorates focus on. One is strictly dedicated to work seekers, and the other is strictly dedicated to employers. All right, I think we can move to the next slide. Okay, so this is just a very brief, I wouldn't even call this an organogram. It's just a very brief explanation as to what happens within PES. All right, so in PES, the first starting point is registration. This applies to employers and work seekers as well as opportunities. So we have a database called ESSA. ESSA stands for Employment Services of South Africa. And what our database does is that it allows employers to register themselves as employers. It allows work seekers to register themselves as work seekers. They will put in their biographical details. They will submit or insert their highest qualifications, whether they have a driver's license or not, what type of skill sets they have. And then employers also register their opportunities, okay? So what ESSA does, ESSA is a very smart system. It's constantly running in the background, and it does something that we refer to as matching. So what it does is it tries to match the 3 registration groups: employers, with work seekers with opportunities. So the moment ESSA sees that there's a relationship and there's a potential for a work seeker to possibly meet the criteria to fill a position or an opportunity that's been registered by an employer, that individual will be contacted by our employment services practitioners and then get referred to, you'll see at the bottom there, it says employment counseling and psychometric assessment. So they will then get referred for those services within our branch. Thereafter, if they meet the criteria for the opportunity that was registered by the employer, they will then be placed into either a work or a training opportunity. All right, so this is just a brief overview of the operations being run by PEST on a daily basis. Thank you. You can move to the next slide. Okay, so the functions of employer services, the one chief directorate that I spoke about, is to register job vacancies and other work opportunities on ESSA. All right. It is also to facilitate the placing of work seekers with employers or in training opportunities, as I've already mentioned. Also, they are also responsible for facilitating the employment of foreign nationals in a manner that is consistent with the objectives of all applicable legislation. They also assist companies in distress, provides a social plan, and regulates private employment agencies, which are also known as recruitment agencies, as well as your TEAs, your temporary employment services. Now, this chief directorate employs employment services practitioners, abbreviation ESPs, as well as your client service officers, abbreviated as CSOs. The CSOs are your frontline officials. These are the officials that you will find at your local labor centers in the front line. And from there onwards, escalate your inquiries to either an employment services practitioner or an employment counselor. So you can move to the next slide. All right. So brief overview of the second chief directorate. This is the chief directorate that I fall under. The functions are to register work seekers and retrenched workers on ESSA. All right. As I explained the matching before, it is to match work seekers with available work opportunities. Our practitioners also advise work seekers on access to education and training. They also advise workers on access to social security benefits. They also provide specialized services to assist vulnerable work seekers. They are responsible for facilitating the provision of employability enhancement programs via the employment counselors and provide psychometric assessment services. Now, a work seeker cannot request psychometric assessment services. This would obviously come through a request from the employer. So the employer, falling under the chief directorate of the employer services, would then contact the employment services practitioner, the ESP, who would then alert our psychology staff that there is an intention to recruit and that a group of candidates, potential candidates on ESSA have been found to be suitable matches, and they then need to be referred to the practitioners to undergo psychometric assessments using a specific test battery formulated with a certain number of tests or competencies that the work seekers would need to be found competent in order to be able to fill those positions or opportunities. So this, I'm sure, will draw your attention. This is the unit that employs registered psychologists, registered counselors, and psychometrists. Okay, we can move to the next slide. Okay, So I just want to explain. The next 3 slides are basically literally job adverts, which we've taken from directly from our DPSA recruitment job profiles that we send through for opportunities that we would like to fill within the department. All right. So just to explain, every week, DPSA, Department of Public Services and Administration, we advertise our jobs weekly, or opportunities rather. So this is very often where graduates, psychology graduates, can definitely have a look at the website to look out for any psychology related post and other. And when I say and other, I will come to that when I get to the third opportunity slide. So just to explain, this is an exact direct, it's not a made up job ad. It is taken as is, all right? So just to explain, I'll go through this one, okay? This one is for an employment services practitioner. You get employment services practitioners 1, 2, and 3, depending on the level and the progression within their employment. As you can see, it's got a valid reference number. It states the salary per annum. Our job ads will always specify the requirements as well as the duties. What's very important for psychology graduates to understand about this is that a position as an employment service practitioner will require a qualification in social science or public administration, aspects such as a valid driver's license, social plan guidance, human resource management, financial management skills, planning, communication skills. These are basic requirements, all right? If a candidate or a graduate has above and beyond these requirements, they might stand a better chance in being found successful for this position post-interview. The duties as well are very specific, and we always encourage work seekers or graduates that when they receive a job advertisement, a listing, an opportunity, to study the duties. If it says identify and process employability needs for job seekers, you need to go and find out what is that all about and how do I go about doing that, so that when you are asked a question in the interview, you can respond to the question. I always like to use the example of a job advertisement being the question paper and the interview being the answer sheet. As corny as that sounds, it's the best way for me to describe this to work seekers and graduates, so that they can understand how important it is to prepare and study for an interview. All right. So things like in the duties, you'll see in the third line, the duties would be to process requests for labor migration and advice on the availability of skills, and to process applications for registration of private employment agencies and your temporary employment agencies, and to supervise the administration of employer services at the labor centers. All right. So this is different to what an employment counselor would do. So an employment counselor falls under Work Seeker Services Chief Directorate. This job ad in front of you falls under the Chief Directorate of Employer Services. So you can see that there is not purely psychology-based duties in this work. However, we like to encourage psychology graduates to apply for an employment services practitioner post. Reason being is we've had a lot of cases where a psychology graduate will apply for an ESP position. They found to be successful. We recruit them. They are placed, and then not long, a employment counselor position will open up. They will apply for it, and they tend to be considered. I don't want to use the word favored, but they are considered to be of higher suitability than bringing in somebody from outside, as they normally like to say. Reason being is they are already acclimatized to the branch, to the services. They already work hand in hand with employment counselors because the two together, the two chief directorates basically achieve the endeavors of the branch at the end of the day. So we encourage psychology graduates, apply. You never know, because this could be a transition for you to get to a point where you can then apply for an employment counselor position that could become made available even 1 or 2 years after you're serving as an ESP. We also have cases where psychology graduates with social science background actually finds that they thoroughly enjoy the work as an ESP and don't ever go on to pursuing an opportunity as an employment counselor under the other chief directorate. So it basically, I'm a spiritual person. I'm not trying to rub off on anybody and bring spirituality into this, but it basically boils down to your calling. Where do you feel your purpose is most needed and most valued? Where are you happy? Where do you feel that you are giving the best of yourself to our work seekers as well as our employers out there who are desperately seeking the assistance and support from the department and our branch specifically? All right, so we can move to the next slide. Okay, so these are opportunities for psychology graduates. All right. Now we often advertise posts for psychometrists as well as registered counselors. We also advertise for principal psychologists as well as career guidance coordinators. Now, just to go back to the organogram, and I didn't provide that slide in here because I didn't feel it was necessary, but basically the organogram within the employment counseling unit consists of a principal psychologist in each province. They are based at the provincial head offices in their respective provinces. They are considered to be the provincial managers for employment counseling and psychometric assessment and selection services. Working with them, they have a CGC, which is your career guidance coordinators, who basically administer, monitor, support, assist, coordinate all the administrative functions to the counselors. And then you have your employment counselors or your psychometrists, who are then located at your local labor centers within the provinces. All right, so that was just a very quick overview of the organogram within our unit. Just to explain this grade 1 next to the psychometrist registered counselor. Now, registered counselors, psychometrists, and basically the psychology establishment within the Work Seeker Services Chief Directorate receives an OSD salary. Now, let me explain what an OSD salary is. I didn't know such thing existed when I was working in the police. So when I heard about OSD salary, I was like, yay, let me apply for a post. So an OSD salary is occupation-specific dispensation, all right? Occupation-specific dispensation means that you are paid accordingly to your scarce skill, all right? We know that there are various scarce skills in the country, globally, and that in South Africa, the Department of Public Services and Administration, which is the DPSA, they outlined a salary structure for registered practitioners, including your dentists, your doctors, your psychiatrists, your physiotherapists, you name it, any person who is registered with the council. They have outlined a salary guide for registered practitioners. And it's basically an all-inclusive package, all right? So you'll have like you will have a subsidization for your medical aid, and various other benefits that come with the salary. So if you compared, we will share this presentation as well. If you compare the salary of an ESP compared to the psychometrist and registered counselor, the reason we are specifying OSD on this job ad is so that it clearly distinguishes that This salary is higher. It falls in line with the OSD that is recommended by the DPSA. And you can clearly see that, yes, practitioners under this unit are paid a little bit more. That is because they are registered, they have the specific skills as well as the various scope of practices needed within this unit to accomplish the endeavors also that is set out by the unit. So I just wanted to explain that, because very often we get work seekers asking us, what is OSD? Or you'll get somebody who's doing an internship in psychology somewhere. They will contact me and they'll say, you know what, I'm currently an intern at so-and-so, and I've seen this job ad. I'm very interested, but please explain to me what is this OSD and what is this grade 1 and all of that. And then we explain it to them. So I felt it was relevant to mention it here on this platform so that our graduates can also understand what OSD stands for. And that grade 1 basically means that you will start with grade 1, notch 1. So that salary bracket that is indicated there is a non-negotiable salary that you will start with, all right? As you progress within your employment, they will then adjust you. It's called a salary adjustment, where they will adjust you as per your years of service and put you on the correct grading and notch. But I don't want you to worry and focus too much on that. It's just to explain what it is all about, because we put these job adverts out there on DPSA, etc., not realizing that people don't know what is OSD, what is grade 1. We're confusing the people. However, we have to advertise exactly like this so that those who know what OSD is, who knows what the grading system works like, can then understand the what is basically specified here under the salary. All right, and then to explain the difference between an ESP post and a post as a psychometrist, registered counselor, or a practitioner, a psychologist, CGC. Basically, you need your psychology qualifications, right? Like, for example, for a psychometrist or registered counselor, you would need your 4 years B-Psych qualification or a psych equivalent. So I'm quite much older than a lot of you students here. So I have a BAH, a Bachelor of Arts, honors in Bachelor of Arts from Rhodes University. B-Psych, if I'm not mistaken, B-Psych did not exist or come into existence yet. The HPCSA practitioners on this platform can correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, hence why we always specify or a psych equivalent. So either B-Psych qualification or a psych equivalent, all right? Obviously, very strict requirements, registration with Health Professions Council, and obviously in independent practice, or, sorry, my screen seems to have gone a little bit, I don't know if it's possessed or something, but my screen has gone a little crazy here. Please forgive me. So basically, okay, there we go. As a registered counselor in independent practice, and as well the same requirements as for a psychometrist, all right? Valid driver's license, that is non-negotiable. Experience, they're saying none, all right? They've changed this recently. Previously, it was 1 to 2 years experience, but now they've changed it to none. I'm not going to go into the explanation of that because it's a long story. We, following cabinet, presidential instructions and whatnot, certain things have changed, making it far easier for graduates to enter into opportunities. We often get situations where we get phone calls or emails from an intern saying, ma'am, I see this advertisement and I want to apply, but it says 1 to 2 years experience. How must I get that 1 to 2 years experience if nobody's giving me a chance? If nobody's employing me, how am I supposed to get that 1 to 2 years experience? So hence the requirement must change to none. So long as you have the major requirements needed, and it is assumed then that you obviously have the professionalism, the skills, the ethics, the values, you name it, to be able to perform the various duties that will be expected of you. All right. And you'll see there, you'll need to have financial management skills, human resource management, psychometric assessment skills. And I know some of you are still studying, so obviously, with that, there are a lot of ethics that comes with psychometric assessments. So your post is a very serious post should you be placed in a post like this. It's very serious. You have a lot of the ethical requirements to comply with. What's not mentioned here off the side is that, yes, the department always endorses and enforces strict compliance to CPD, which is your continuing professional development. All our practitioners need to submit proof of annual CPD compliance to make sure that they are constantly retaining their skillfulness in their profession. And this is required by any practitioner registered with the HPCSA. And then the duties, obviously, to provide and implement employment counseling services, implement recruitment, psychometric assessments, liaise with different organizations, both government, non-government, non-profit, as well as private, to facilitate employability enhancement interventions for designated groups, manage operations and personnel resources of the employment counselling unit. Now, I fall within this unit, but I'm based at the national head office. So I have a bit of a more serious job being a national coordinator, but all the excitement is happening on the ground. When I say the ground, I mean the local labour centres. The councillors host events, they have career fairs, they have exhibitions, they have job fairs where the other chief directorate will join them, and together they will pull off amazing events where they invite post-matric, because we cannot access, we do not have the mandate to access scholars. So post-matrics, graduates, work seekers, people who currently have a working position but are currently looking at what else is out there, what else can I pursue, and then the response is amazing. We'll market our services, we'll even provide programs, we'll put up marquees, we'll have tents, we'll do whatever to present our programs. We do things like interview preparation, how to prepare for an interview, how to construct your CV correctly, how to do a correct cover letter, all the things that in my days didn't exist. Nobody taught me those things, not realizing how critical it was to know how to properly construct your CV, how to correctly construct a letter to an employer indicating interest in the opportunity that you're applying for. We do job interview preparations. We do entrepreneurship programs. We do life skills programs. The list goes on and on and on. I don't want to deviate too much, but I just wanted to share a little bit of that so that you know how diverse our services are within our specific unit or my specific unit. So that you understand that there's a lot of work involved, but of course it is highly rewarding. You can change to the next slide. Again, I want to remind you, these 3 adverts that I selected are legit adverts. They are totally legitimate, but there are only 3 examples. The list is multiple. If you go onto the website every week, onto the DPSA's website, every week you will find multiple opportunities advertised, not just for our department, but all the government departments, to my knowledge. I also want you to consider the following, and I'm going to explain this. A lot of graduates have the mindset or the perception that they need to apply for a job specifically according to their qualification. And you get cases where there are work seekers sitting at home, depressed, anxious, helpless, having a low self-esteem, comparing themselves to their friends who managed to get a job. They're sitting at home, unemployed, asking themselves, why, God, why are you not opening the doors for me? and they're sitting and they're waiting and they're waiting because they believe that they should only apply for service opportunities that they have a qualification for. So I ended off with this one as a motivation and also to explain. We encourage work seekers and graduates to consider other opportunities that might not have been, that you might be overly qualified for. All right, you might be overly qualified for this position, but apply for it nevertheless and get your foot in the door. The reason we encourage this is because you'll get someone who will, a registered counselor, for example, or a registered psychometrist, okay? They've got all their qualifications. They have I don't think you changed the screen, sorry, the slide. If you can change to the one that says also consider, that's it. As you can see, basic requirements, matriculation, grade 12. There isn't even a mention of a valid driver's license. So do you see that sometimes life, for whatever reason, life sometimes prohibits us from, maybe it was for financial reasons, maybe nervousness, maybe lack of not being able to apply attention on going for driving lessons or whatever the case is. But we very often find that somebody has all the requirements listed in a job advertisement, but they don't have their driver's license. And that's always where their CV, not their CV, but their application will get thrown out by a recruitment office officials, because normally when people apply for posts, we end up getting piles and piles and piles of applications. Now, obviously, there's only, but yet it's they're applying for one available opportunity, or maybe there's 3 available opportunities, for example. Now, if you don't have a valid driver's license, but 80% of the applications received by the recruitment office has their valid driver's license, who do you think they are going to prioritize or choose? Obviously, they're going to choose the one that is more upskilled, who is overqualified, etc. I think you understand the point I'm trying to make, right? But don't hesitate. So sometimes you get cases where you have a registered counselor, registered psychometrist, but they're not being considered because of a thing like a valid driver's license that they still intend to getting around to achieving. All right. So that is why consider and get your foot into the door by even applying for posts that that you are overqualified for, just to get your foot in the door. Because what I see over and over and over again, I saw it in my 7 years in the police, and I've seen it in the 6 years or 5 years. 6 years. You see, I've even lost track of time. That's what happens when you become old like me. In the 6 years that I've been in the Department of Employment and Labor, I've seen it all the time. I see people transition. I see people move up the ladder. Somebody that came in overqualified for a position, came in, they acclimatized themselves with the unit or the branch, they worked, they got familiarized, they rendered the services, they earned their salary, they felt a bit better, the depression went away, the low self-esteem went away. And we all know basic psychology fact. When you wake up every day and you feel that you have something to contribute to, or that you wake up with a purpose for the day, we all know that is an amazing feeling. And that is often why, there's a lot of pre-retirement programs that various institutions offer, because and even normally in the employee health and wellness sections within government departments, they normally prepare somebody before they go on retirement. Reason being is somebody will retire and they didn't make any provision for what they were going to keep themselves busy with post-retirement. And then that is when the depression kicks in, the depression, the helplessness, waking up every day saying, who am I now? What am I? Having an existential crisis, not knowing where do they contribute now? What is their purpose? They're not helping or working towards a bigger picture of something. So we all know how important purpose and being able to contribute to something bigger, the value that is derived from that. So again, I would like you to consider other opportunities that are advertised, that can just get your foot into the door. Because once your foot is in the door, not long, you will see that other posts will become vacant, and you will be favored due to the fact that there's no need to train you, so we can save on training costs. We don't need to train you. You are already acclimatized to the unit, the branch. And I know I'm not just speaking for my unit, my branch, my department. I know that it works the same with most government departments. That if your foot is in the door and you apply for a post, you might be favored over another candidate who has not had a foot in the door, has no experience in the department, and therefore there will be training costs incurred to get that person to the level that you might be at. For if you were, for example, as a CSO. So you'll see here as well duties, render services at a help desk at first point of entry. So you are this person, I always say, never look down on another individual. Never think that your position is more important than somebody else's. Because remember, the big bosses are sitting behind offices, closed office doors in the big buildings that the clients don't see. The clients, the public, the citizens of South Africa, they see the frontline officials. They see the face and the person and the name of the person who's there at the front. And that is the person they remember when they walk away having received a service from the department, or departments, should I say. They remember the person who helped them. They don't remember the big bosses, or they don't even get to even meet the big bosses. So I always say, don't ever look down on an opportunity. This is your opportunity to get in and work your way up. And I know I speak for all government departments. So please, graduates, always keep your eyes open as to what is available out there. Get yourself in and work your way up. The other reason being is because the moment you get into an opportunity that you are overqualified for, automatically, by virtue of you being employed, you now have something to add to your CV. So where it talks about that 1 to 2 years experience, etc., now you can laugh that off, because now you have something on your CV, a legitimate employment record with the department on your CV. All right. So people don't, I wish when I was your age, I wish somebody explained these things to me, but unfortunately it didn't. But that's another story. This is not my life story. I'm just bringing that in to explain to you the value of the information that you are receiving today. So yes, we can move to the second last slide. Okay, so exciting news for graduates. PES will be advertising more than 200 opportunities for psychology graduates very soon. So please keep a lookout for this advertisement that will be available on the DPSA's website. As well as, you will be surprised that even on Facebook, you'll find that the department's Facebook platform will also indicate the opportunities. So keep your eyes open, talk to people, speak, call the department even if you have to, all right? These opportunities are meant to provide work experience for a period of 1 year. I need to emphasize, these opportunities are not internships, all right? You will not be doing a 12 to 24-month internship where you receive a certificate afterwards confirming that you've achieved a successful internship through our department. No, I need to be very clear. It's an opportunity meant to provide 1 year's worth of work experience that you can also get to place on your CV. Again, there we go, something to smile about. So please, if you come across these opportunities, please apply for them. I would love to meet you all in the provinces when I visit the provinces, and to hear if you happen to be one of those individuals who are on this platform today, who through this presentation applied and was actually successfully selected. It would be very exciting. And again, as a spiritual person, it would really be rewarding to know that information is actually being received. The last slide, basically our contact details, where you can specifically get all the multiple services information through these various platforms, the 086 number, the website, the contact center number, the USSD channel. If you dial that number, right, it will then prompt you. It's like an SMS. You dial that number, it then prompts you to the various services that are available. You then select the service you're looking for, and it will then channel you to the correct official that can assist you with your specific inquiry. All right. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you. I think I went a few minutes over my time. I apologize. I hope the information was valuable. I did see a hands up earlier, but I lost it earlier. I don't know if the individual wants to leave it for the Q&A session later in the program, or if the program director will allow the question to be answered now. I'm not sure. I will leave that to the program director. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day further. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Jessica. Please, students, we are running out of time. So that question that we had, please post it in the chat. And Mrs. Jessica Bachu will attend to it in the chats. Please, ma'am, if you have the time, can you please attend to it in the chats because we're running out of time. Without further ado, we have our next speaker from the South African College of Applied Psychology. This is Isaac Monareng. He has a Bachelor of Applied Social Sciences, currently enrolled, for an honors degree in psychology. He's the admissions officer at SACAP. So, sir, if you're around, Mr. Isaac, are you around? Hello, Mr. Isaac?
Yes, I am around. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. The platform is all yours. Can you please
hear me?
launch your presentation? Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Please give me a thumbs up if you can see it.
I think it's still loading.
Can everyone see my screen?
No, not yet. I think it's still loading. It's blank at this moment.
Okay. Anything now?
No, not on my end. I'm not seeing anything on my end.
Okay. I might be having a technical glitch, but I can still. I do see it on my side. So thank you so much for this opportunity. And
sir,
thank you for everyone who's attending. Yes.
What we can do is you can send your slides to Ms. Namashu Mabua, and then we'll project it for you on our end because I still can't see it on my side.
Okay. All right. Should I send it on this platform still?
Please send it to Ms. Namashu Mabua, please. Send it to her email so we can project it for you on our side.
Oh. All right.
Okay, thank
Sorry
you.
for this technicality.
No, it's okay. It happens. Thank you for your patience, attendees. Please bear with us as we get this ball rolling.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly need in the box the email address.
Hi, Isaac. I just sent you a test email.
Okay.
Yes, so I'm sure it will be in your inbox right now. Then you can just reply from that.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right. All right, I come back. I hope that will get sorted as we go. But yes, let me start by again thanking everyone for this opportunity and greetings to all in attendance. And a special thank you for UNISA for allowing SACAP as an institution the collaboration. I think that is just something to take our hats off for you. So I am actually going to be speaking to two programs only. That is basically connected with the HPCSA, right? So these are the programs that you can do with us that are accredited by the HPCSA. I believe with the first presentation, we should have seen, all the requirements related to the HPCSA and getting their registrations, right? So specialization. So they lead to registration as a registered counselor. Okay. So the slides are available. I believe they can make them accessible to you at a later point, or should you need them directly from me, I'm just going to put my email address there. You can reach me directly. And yeah, we'll take it from there. So I'm not going to wait for oh, there we go. There we go. Now, there we go. We have the slides up. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to speak to the Bachelor of Psychology as the first program. I do believe most of you, if not all, already enrolled in, a qualification in psychology as we speak. So maybe this might not be the ideal qualification for you. However, it is very important to know that it is available, and even if for referral at some point, right? So this is a 4-year program. So the email address I posted there is mine, isaac@sacap.edu.za, for anyone who's looking at the chat box. Yes, so the Bachelor of Psychology is a 4-year program. It does incorporate the undergraduate degree and the honors within it, as well as your 720 hours of internship, right? Practicum hours. So upon completion of the 4-year program, you would actually be eligible to write a board exam with the HPCSA, as it is accredited. And if you are successful, you would then get your registration as a registered counselor and then be able to practice. All right. And I think we can go to the bottom page there of the slide. So this is basically all the information that is relevant to this. You will see that it is, of course, accredited. It does consist of 31 modules, and it is important to note that it is only offered on our Johannesburg and Cape Town campuses. So it is only offered on a full-time basis as well. That's very important to be aware of, right? And of course, I think we have touched on most of this, but with regards to working within the space, you would be eligible for a lot of opportunities within the space of the registered counselors. As speaking specifically to our previous presenter, where they mentioned this payment package that was also new to me. So that is one of the major benefits of being registered, and of course the ability to practice as a registered counselor within the counseling space. I'm not going to spend too much time on this program, because I believe the second one, if we can go to the second program there, is what would be most interesting for most of us, right? And this would be the B-Psych equivalent program. The B-Psych equivalent program is an honors program. So basically, if you are enrolled in your undergrad or if you are enrolled in your honors, you do then, after completion, have the opportunity to do an honors, which has a BPsych equivalent. What that means is that you would still be eligible to register as a registered counselor. Okay. The program is 18 months long, and within the 18 months also provides the 720 hours practicum. It is very lucrative. I think a lot of our graduates or a lot of undergrads in various institutions really fight for a spot in this program specifically. All right. So listed there are the modules that are included within this program. As I had mentioned, it is an 18-month program. And basically what we're looking at there is a limitation of how many students we can take in per intake, right? We have one intake a year. Good news is that it's more accessible because it's available in Pretoria, Cape Town, and Johannesburg. However, we do only take 15 students per intake, per campus, right, for this program. So it is highly competitive. So getting in there would be, you know, a competitive space, right? What you do need to know about it is that at the admission requirements, what we're looking at is in your undergrad, a minimum average of 65%, right? So this is 65% in your psychology modules. That will actually get you into the program, or actually it will qualify you to go into the program. Once your application is received, if you have an honors, it does automatically qualify you to get into the program. And what it means is that once your paper application is successful, you'll be called in for interviews, and you'll go through the interview process, and there'll be a streamlining until we get our 15 candidates for the intake. And yes, that is actually what I have. I just do need to mention that for our honors graduates, unfortunately, we do not run the internship on its own. So you are actually looking at your 18-month program at a full-time basis, which does include the 720-hour practicum. Okay, so I will be taking questions later on as the program director allows, but thank you for this time. There are a lot more courses that we do offer. However, I did stick to what is relevant for today and what would be most helpful, especially with regards to the HPCSA. Thank you so much, and we'll meet in the questions and answer sessions, yeah? Over to you, program director.
Thank you, Mr. Manareng. You really saved us a lot of time. We're back on schedule. Thank you very much for that lovely presentation. I trust we're able to absorb as much information as possible. So please, if you have any questions for him, like he said, you can post them in the chats. He will attend to you. And we will have a Q&A session, not too long. In a few presentations, we'll have a Q&A session. So please hold on to your questions if you want to raise your hand later. Otherwise, post them in the chats and they'll be attended to. So without wasting any more time and using the spare time we have, I'd like to welcome our next speaker. Our next speaker will be presenting on how to open a successful private practice. So presenting for us will be Gauteng Ramalepe. So I'd like to firstly please find out, Gauteng Ramalepe, are you with us?
Hello, can you hear me, everyone?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Can you please load your presentation for us?
I have sent it on your email.
Oh, okay. In that case, then one of my colleagues will load it up for you. So please. In the meantime, can you please just introduce yourself, because I don't have your bio with me. Introduce yourself to our students so they just get to understand who will be presenting to them, who they'll be talking to while we upload your presentation.
Okay, thank you all for having me today. I am Gauteng Ramalepe. I am a registered counselor, and I would like to
take this opportunity to acknowledge everyone who has joined us today, especially the UNISA Academia for preparing this workshop, and also to honor the guests that have joined us today, and the UNISA students and everyone else I might have not mentioned. So I'll just briefly share about myself. I am a self-employed registered counselor at Sishoka Mental Health Practitioners. I established the practice in 2021, and I am currently running 2 practices in Limpopo. One is in Polokwane and one is in Zanin. So I guess I have like 3 years in private practice, and I am fully in private practice. I'm not doing anything else. So I'm going to share with you how to open a private practice and to, in a way, depend on it, and how to manage it well for it to be a success. So I'll start off initially in the beginning of everything else. When you have the idea of opening a private practice, you need to make sure that you are registered with the relevant bodies. You have passed your board exams as a registered counselor, and you have registered with HPCSA as an independent practitioner. So when it comes to registrations, it's not only HPCSA, you also have to register with CIPC, because now you'll be opening a business. Your practice will be bringing income, so that will have to be something that you register. You register with SARS, you register with also BHF. BHF, they will give you a practice number. You will need that practice number to make claims, and also to use it when you advertise your posts, and also for other professional needs that may need your practice number. Another thing is to make sure that your admin is intact. You will have to make sure that all your paperwork is properly organized, and this paperwork is the one that's going to help you to manage your practice well, and to also manage and to keep you competent. Well, in admin, what I'm talking about is your consent forms. You have to draft your consent forms as we were taught in our internship. When we were doing our internship, you have to do that. You have to draft your intake forms. You have to also find a system that you're going to use for filing. So this system is to store your filing, is to name your filing, and also how you're going to claim for medical aids. And this is where you also have to register with MedScheme for those if you will be taking medical aids as well. You won't be taking only cash. So with medical aids, you will register with different medical aids that are there. MedScheme, it's like an umbrella that has different medical aid schemes under it. So you can start there, register, and the other ones that are not within the MedScheme platform, then you can register them aside, such as at the time when I was starting, Discovery was not part of, I had to register it aside, not in the same way as I did with the other ones through MedScheme. So another thing that you will need in terms of your admin work is how you're going to, in a way, pack them, or in a way store your filing. That's going to help you to identify the clients that you'll be seeing. So your filing system is the one that's going to help you to also identify your clients, and it helps you with claiming. When you claim, you will have to make sure that your filing is intact. So we'll also go to indemnity insurance. Here you will need to find an indemnity insurance. This is
more of an insurance that's going to help you to cover for your practice in case something happens to your practice, or in case you lose your possessions, such as maybe your laptop or something is missing in your practice, in your office. And also you will have to get an insurance for your profession. One of the insurance bodies that I know that are good also for for healthcare professionals is PPS. You can insure with them. They also insure you if you are not well and you cannot make it to your practice. Since this one is when you are self-employed, it depends on you. So there's no, if you are not there, your practice stuck. If you're not well, it means also your work gets stuck. So you will need something that's going to help you with your income, that's going to help you also to pay the bills. Then we also have EAPs. Well, these are the employee assistance programs that you can affiliate with. These ones, they help you to source clients. So they source clients for you, and then you see clients on their behalf. They also have their own registered counselors and psychologists that see clients. When you affiliate with them, you are more of an external affiliator. So they will bring clients to you that will help you to make a living out of it, at least to also grow in your profession, because you'll be seeing different kind of cases as they bring them. And there are a lot of employee assistance programs. I will mention a few. We have Careways, we have Life Assist, we have Health First, we have ICAS. There are a lot of EAPs that you can affiliate with, and they will be bringing you clients. So when you affiliate with them, not much is needed. All you have to do is just to fill the form, is just to email them firstly. After they will send you forms that you're going to fill, then you send back to them. And then they will be emailing you or calling you to refer clients that are within your area where your office will be. And then let's go to marketing. You will have to market as best as you can, especially when you are starting. So make sure that also the little income you make, you also invest it in your marketing, because that's what's going to help you to maintain your practice in terms of income, in terms of finances. Also, you will have to have a system on how you're going to manage your finances, because here you are doing everything. You're a manager, you're an employee, you are everything. You are an assistant, you are doing everything for yourself. You are a financial advisor to yourself. So you will have to make sure that there is some form of discipline when it comes to finances. So it's not more of trying to, when you are starting, it's not about profit, it's not about making money. In the beginning, it's about establishing yourself, it's about establishing your practice. Then in the long run, that marketing would have done much better for you. So also when you manage your practice, you will have to have a system that's going to help you to identify, also to keep you in check and to keep you consistent. When in a way you will have to know what works best for you. You have to know which time also works best for you, because I know there are those that work also at night. There are registered counselors that work also at night. Some, they prefer working during the day, because when you are in private practice, you are flexible. You can choose your working hours. So when you choose your working hours, you will have to know how you're going to manage yourself and how you're going to manage your practice as a whole. So that is all from me. If you have questions, you will send them on the chat box. Thank you so much. I hope I have covered everything.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ramalepe. That was a very informative presentation. Guys, like she said, if you have any questions, post them in the chat, please, and then she'll attend to you. And our Q&A session is coming now. So because she saved us so much time, we're going to stash that time and save it for our Q&A session at the end. Okay, I'm sorry for that noise outside. So next, without wasting any more time and just reserving the time that we do have, I'm going to introduce to you guys our next speaker who will be presenting to us. Our next speaker is a representative from the University of Johannesburg, Professor Hill. Now, Professor Hill has a PhD in industrial psychology and is currently a professor at the Department of Industrial Psychology and People Management at the University of Johannesburg. So I look forward to this presentation. Professor Hill, are you with us? Just want to make sure that we can hear you.
I am here. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Thank you very much. Please, the platform is all yours.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Yeah, as was mentioned, I am from the University of Johannesburg, and I am, and I believe my colleagues, Agnes and Natasha is also here, which they will help if I get stuck in any of the information. I would just want to share with you guys what our program is about. So yeah, we offer a program, a short learning course, the psychometry program. Let me just get the right slide here. Just to tell you a bit of who we are, how does this program fit into our department at UJ? So we are part of the Industrial Psychology and People Management program. We in this program, or in this department, we have programs in human resource management, a program in industrial psychology, and a program in leadership. And we offer not only undergraduate, honors, master's, doctoral programs, but also continuing education programs. And this is where the psychometry, the practical program in psychometry fits in. We have a lot of well-trained presenters on this program as well that will help or prepare the students to become psychometrists. So that's the aim of our program, is to prepare the student psychometrists to function effectively in any appropriate settings, which includes independent practice. And the program focuses on both theoretical and practical aspects of psychological testing and assessment. So when you've completed this program, you gain access or entrance to the national, the board exam, which when you completed that and you've passed that, you can register and practice as an independent psychometrist. So that's just the purpose of our program. To just give you some additional information. So as I mentioned, our program has a theoretical and a practical component. The theoretical component introduces students to the basics of psychometric theory and the principles thereof. We work through what basic interview and counselling skills look like. We want to ensure that our students understand any assessments related to the context where they are functioning within, and to also make sure that they have a foundational psychological knowledge of ethics, legislation, and practice management with regards to the psychometric profession. So that's just from the theoretical side, where we try to make sure, as I said, we look at legislation, we look at ethics. How do you apply your assessments in whichever context you are functioning? And the different contexts I'm talking about will be some of our practicums is in an educational context or counselling environment, or clinical, or a business, industrial, psychological environment. So that's just the theoretical part of it. The majority of, just go back to that, the majority of this training will be provided by UJ during contact sessions, but we also have an e-learning component, which I'll talk about just now. So yeah, there's theory in this program, as any good program should have. Then the second part of it is that we also have a practical program. or component to it. So the practical component of the program is intended to expose students to psychometry in practice in these work settings that I've just mentioned. And in this context, you have a practicum supervisor as well as a UJ supervisor that guides you and trains you throughout this process to make sure that you know how to use test in a professional and an ethical manner. At the end of these 6 months, you would be able to demonstrate instrumental knowledge and skills that apply to all the aspects of the process of testing in different contexts. So yeah, this is where you practically apply what you learn in the theoretical component. But please note, and I'll mention I'll talk about the admission criteria just now, but this is it builds on the theoretical component builds on what you have learned in your honors and undergraduate in psychology. Okay, oopsie, sorry. Part of our training is that in certain practicums you might be exposed to accreditation training, but please note that this is not part of our program. It's not a formal part. We do not provide accreditation training. We are just looking at the theoretical and the practical component. It depends on the practicum where you are placed. Some of the practicums will provide you with accreditation training, but just, yeah, it's not formally part of this program. It's also one of the reasons behind that is since you are exposed to different students are placed in different types of practicums, as I said, clinical, counselling, educational, or industrial psychology, it's difficult to provide accreditation training that will be relevant for all of those areas. So just a disclaimer, accreditation training is not part of this program. We do have certain requirements during the program for you to pass the program or to be allowed to write the board exam. The first one is that you will be monitored by a UJ supervisor as well as your internal practicum supervisor. So, and you've got monthly group sessions with them where they work through what you are learning. Are you on track with your program? So these are compulsory. They also write feedback reports on your progress so that we can see if there's anything that we need to intervene or help or assist with in any way. At the end of it, you also write an exam where you have to have a minimum of 60% it's a very practical exam based on your theoretical knowledge as well as your practical experiences where you apply that in case studies. And then we also look just at your overall performance and feedback from your the feedback reports, not just from your UJ supervisor, but also from your practicum supervisor as well. So we'll look at your overall performance before we can sign off to say, yes, you can write the board exam. And part of this whole process, which we guide you in very thoroughly, is keeping logbooks where you keep track of all your activities and all your learning to make sure that the right learning is taking place, that you adhere to all the requirements of the HPCSA. And then lastly, just to take you through the structure, what does the program actually look like? So this is just some information. First of all, and again, I'll talk about the admission criteria just now, but you need an accredited BPsych equivalent in psychology or related psychology field that will, can incorporate the approved 6-month practicum. So our 6-month practicum, so it's 6 months long, build on your honors in industrial psychology or in a psychological field. Please note that this program is full-time and it's uninterrupted, 6 months. All the hours that of the 6 months should be accounted for and signed by a supervisor. So you cannot work somewhere and do a practicum. This is not a part-time position. It is full-time and you can only do psychometry practicum related work. just, yeah, please take note of that. The program schedule that we give every semester when the program starts includes class times, because we work with a blended approach. So there are contact sessions, there's also online sessions, and a variety of topics that we cover as set out by the HPCSA, but it's compulsory. And but we work with the practicum providers, so the people where you are going to work at to do your practicum. So we give them this program, they know of your schedule, so there's no conflict between when you should be at UJ and when you should be at work. That's clear, set out from the beginning of the 6 months. The schedule also includes, as I mentioned earlier, that there's e-learning modules. In other words, there's online modules and webinars that you have to complete, but that you do during the 6 months at your own pace, but they have to be completed and it counts towards your final examination mark as well. So you cannot pass this program without having completed the e-learning modules and webinars. There's also compulsory 6 sessions with your UJ supervisor. These sessions are generally 5 hours long. But it's also worked into your schedule. But this is, again, from UJ's side to make sure that we guide you and supervise you and give you the mentor you in this process to make sure that at the end of the day you will have so, I'm not okay, there's so muted. So to make sure that you've got the right knowledge, skills, earlier, the final UJ exam will take place at the end of the year or at the end of the 6 months. And as I mentioned, it's combined with your other assessment activities, your quizzes, your practicum sign-off, etc., before you can write the national board exam. Then, as I've alluded to, we have selection criteria. We do get a lot of applicants, but our program can take only a certain amount of candidates due to just the positions available at the practicum providers. So, what do you need to apply for this program? You need to have an honours degree in psychology or in industrial psychology, but please note you need to have an assessment module that you've passed in the honours degree. So there should be a clear psychological testing and assessment module that you have completed. This way we can ensure that you've got the appropriate knowledge and understanding of basic psychometric principles and psychometry that's required by the HPCSA. So, but just note, this is just the first hurdle is these qualifications. That doesn't mean that you will automatically qualify for the program. There's also a selection process where you will complete psychological assessments and to make sure that you have the key competencies that's needed to be a competent psychometrist. So that's also part of the selection process, a psychological assessment, as well as we look at your marks for your honours degree and for the psychometry module. There will also be a knowledge assessment. You just see, did I? No, it's not there. To just, a brief knowledge assessment that you to see, to gauge your knowledge and understanding of basic psychometric principles. That's all part of the selection process. And then when we've reached a decision, we've got appropriate placements, we will let you know and notify you of our decision. If you need any more information, you are welcome to contact Natasha Da Silva. There's her information. You can either phone her or email her. Email is preferred, and she can provide you with any answers to questions that you might still have. And that's it from me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Hill. We're making good time right now, guys. Good time. Please show love, round of applause, react. That was a very informative session, especially for those of us who may be considering going into psychometry. There are limited opportunities like she said, especially when it comes to these programs. So all this information is very necessary for all of us. So thank you very, very much. We're bagging in the time. So let's leverage that and move on to our next presentation. Our next speaker, we have Dr. Nikki Themistocleus. I hope I did not pronounce that wrong. If I did, please correct me. Okay, so she is one of our own very distinguished senior lecturer in the Department of Psychology. She will be presenting on how to get selected for a Master of Arts program, the do's and don'ts. So this is going to be very crucial for those of us who intend on continuing further with our qualifications and not just stopping with our honors. So please, guys, take notes, pay attention. And so this is Dr. Nikki. She's a senior lecturer, like I said, and a coordinator of the Master of Arts program in clinical psychology. She's a registered clinical psychologist with the HPCSA. She's a senior lecturer in the department, qualified with an MA in clinical psychology. She has a PhD in psychology with a focus on forensic psychology. So well-rounded, very diverse. She runs a part-time private practice as well. And here I was given the information that she believes that the combination of both academia and clinical practice speak to efficacy and relevance of both teaching and training future clinical psychologists, as well as best practices clinically. She regards herself as a lifelong learner, very distinguished individual we have in today, an impressive profile. So Dr. Nikki, are you with us? Just want to make sure that we can hear you.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you please project your presentation for us?
Sure, and please just let me know when you can see it.
Right, yes, we can see it. So the floor is all yours.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. I do acknowledge that I've been given the difficult task of trying to answer how to get selected. And I hope that through this presentation, we can maybe just speak to some of the challenges, but also the do's and don'ts as far as is possible. So I'm going to talk a little bit in a bit of a back to front way, and just talk a little bit about what to expect if you are selected into a clinical psychology program, and particularly at UNISA, and then the eligibility to be able to apply, and then a little bit around the do's and don'ts, but I do have a bit of a disclaimer as well. And then I've just included a couple of past students' experiences with regards to applications and selections, because I think a lot of people look forward to it and don't know what to expect, and it can be an extremely anxiety-provoking process, but many students also find it quite a rewarding process, and I hope that comes through later on. Okay, but let's talk a little bit first about what to expect, and I think it's important to know what you're getting into if it is something that you want to pursue and want to apply for. And oftentimes I find students expect a master's, professional master's program to almost be a continuation of undergrad or honors. But there is quite a big jump in terms of what we do expect from our students, our master's students at least. So currently at UNISA, our MA Clinical Psych program is a 3-year degree. It used to be a 2-year degree. It is now a 3-year degree, where your internship is now embedded within the program. So the studying at least will encompass 2 years of coursework and practical work. It's always been a 2 years coursework program, and that will parallel your research process as well. So you'll have 3 years to do your research also. And like I said, your 3rd year will be an internship year, but that is now embedded into the program. So that means you cannot graduate until you've completed your internship. And thereafter, you need to do a community service year of 12 months, a board exam before the ComServe. And so if we just look at those few years, you can expect to have 4 years of hard work and very tight deadlines. And so the question, I suppose, is what does it take to get through the program, and then we'll work backwards, what does it take to get selected? And obviously, I think a lot of hard work, commitment, but good time management as well. And over and above that, one of the most important aspects to successfully get through your MA Clinical Psych program is to have your financial, social, and emotional support, as well as an openness to change, and coming with the attitude of wanting to learn and wanting to grow. And I haven't mentioned marks or academic performance yet. I'll get to that in a little bit. But just from this slide, I think it's safe to say that the next 4 years, if you are selected, really are going to be consumed by your studies. And so having that backup, that financial, social, and emotional support, as well as good time management and a tendency to work hard and be committed is very important. And so at UNISA, and I'm sure at most universities, there is a first round of selections or an eligibility to apply for the program. And this is where your marks are very important. So at UNISA, you need to have an honours degree in psychology, which would mean you would have an undergraduate degree also with psychology 3 or psychology at third year level. But at UNISA, the minimum criteria is to have a minimum of 60% average at your honours level. So your honours degree needs to have an overall 60% average. And that gets you through the door. That is the first, I suppose one of the first, what you should do is make sure that your marks are at least at 60% average. Also, no criminal records, because that will just prevent you from registering at the HPCSA in any category. And so we cannot select anybody with a criminal record. And then obviously to have a completed application form with all supporting documentations and the necessary referee forms. And this is the first step to applying and potentially being selected into the program. And this is not just for administrative purposes or, just to have your details. We really scrutinize your application very thoroughly and with a fine-tooth comb. And so this is your first opportunity to introduce yourselves to us. And we are quite strict with our application. So if any of the forms or the application and supporting documents are incomplete or not submitted, that application will be rejected completely. And so this is the first step that you take to apply, but also to introduce yourselves to us. And so it's important to be able to manage this process effectively, but also professionally. As psychologists, we do engage with people and with their experiences and difficult experiences at times. But we also do need to make sure that our documentation and our ability to manage cases is polished. And this is the first step, that we get to see somebody who's able to put together a package in a well-packaged way. But once you've gotten through that paper process, the application form, you've submitted your documents, you've got your referee forms, you hit the minimum criteria of 60%. What then? And I suppose this is where the disclaimer comes in from my side, and in answering that very elusive question of what do I need to get selected? And I think if I could just move over to my next slide, just to talk a little bit about this disclaimer that I've mentioned now, because I don't think there's one easy answer in terms of what you need to do to get selected. There's also no guarantee. You might have everything, tick all the boxes, and still there's no guarantee that you will be selected for a lot of different reasons. But if we just start at our application process, and I can only speak from the UNISA context, we get sometimes over 1,000 applications each year. And if you just weigh that up, I'm sorry, I didn't manage to get the more recent numbers, but in 2017, the HPCSA released a research report where they stated there were approximately 13,000 registered psychologists. And if you compare that to over 60 million people who live in South Africa, you can see that the proportions and the ratio of psychologists to people in South Africa really is skewed. And so obviously we do want to take in as many students as we can and train as many clinical psychologists as we can. But for a lot of reasons, and I'll speak to some of them just now, I think it's just humanly impossible to increase the numbers of students that we take in each year. And so if we are looking at taking in between 8 and 10 each year from 1,000 applications, it becomes very difficult to answer, what do I need to do to make sure that I can be selected? We know that this profession is a very popular profession, and a lot of people apply because of the that belief that it is a very prestigious, apologies for that, a very prestigious profession, but it is also a highly competitive profession to get into. And I'll just mention 2 reasons. The first is we only have a certain amount of internship site placements for students. And so we select students who have or who would be able to then go into internship and not be left without an internship placement. And the second reason is it's labor intensive. And for my colleagues who are involved in training at a professional master's level can attest that it is a very labor intensive process, and we invest a lot of our time, a lot of our expertise and our skills into the program and into teaching budding clinical psychologists. And so for these reasons, we select at UNISA, and most universities will select between 8 and 10, sometimes 6 students per year. In terms of the demographics, and I don't want to focus on this for very long, but internationally, if we look at some of the international literature, the mean age of selection is about 27 years, but the range is between 21 and 51 years, and 85% of applicants are female. In South Africa, 78, also to just over 80% of applicants are also female, and so that seems to be a trend across the globe. But I think there's also a bit of a myth in applying for psychology, in that you must be young or you must be older. And I think each university differs in their selection cohort or their selected cohort. But at UNISA, you need to have an honours degree in psychology. So whether you are 24 or 35 or 50, you have the same opportunity of being selected. So age should not be a reason not to apply. We don't exclude based on age in any way, shape or form. The difficulty would come in, however, if you, for example, are in your 60s applying and want to complete the program and then get into internship and ComServe. I know retirement ages are important to take into consideration there as well. Also, like I mentioned earlier, marks are important and they do count. And so getting the best possible marks will put you in a good position to apply. But once you've entered that eligibility box and you are eligible to apply, and we've looked at the marks and we've double checked that you've met the minimum criteria, there are other factors that we look at. And so as much as marks are beneficial, because they are a good indicator, if we look at the literature, higher marks do give some indication, or at least a good indication, of a student's ability to cope at master's level and to manage the demands of a master's program. But it is not the only criteria that we look at. And I've often seen it. Students can, have distinctions across the board, but really struggle interpersonally, for example. And then you might have students who are average performers and do very well interpersonally, can read, process well, etc. So as much as marks are very good to focus on, it is not the only criteria. And so perhaps to get into some of the do's and don'ts, I've included a quote. It's a bit dated, but I think it still speaks and still is applicable to where a lot of applicants are at the moment. So I've just included it there for you before I get into the do's and don'ts. And I'll read it for you. It says, it demands that trainees become intimately involved in the pain, conflicts, disappointments, and hardships of the lives of people whose mental health in some way is in jeopardy. It also demands that trainees examine their own lives and negotiate their way towards a professional identity that will allow them simultaneously to grapple with the pain of others in a mindful way to protect themselves from this activity's potentially debilitating effects. And I think that quote speaks to all categories of psychologists and mental health professionals, in that we will be working with individuals and families and communities and groups of people who are struggling in some way. And so it really does require us to be able to confront our own challenges and difficulties and experiences in shaping our professional identity as a clinical psychologist. I'll speak to clinical psychology because that's the category I'm registered in. And so I think this is a nice place to just start talking about the do's and don'ts when we apply, just keeping in the back of your mind that there is no one formula and there is no one recipe to guarantee a successful application into clinical psychology. But let's look at some of the do's. And the first one is to make sure that your referees that you submit with your application are referees that know you in a professional academic context. We do not accept any personal references. And I mention this not because we only look at referees' reports. We do look at them. And they tend to be a good screen for problematic applications, more so than differentiating those who are eligible or would then make good psychologists. Most referees speak very favorably about the applicant, but it is a good indication or at least it raises or highlights some concerns that there might be with regards to the applicant. And then with regards to being trained, what we call to having a trainability or an attitude of trainability. We know that the training at master's level in a professional degree is a lot more than just knowledge acquisition. And so students are not just passive recipients of information or of knowledge. The training really does require a big focus on personal and professional development. And so your identity as a person changes and transforms over time. And I think this does require one to be prepared for that. You can't be prepared in totality because you never know how that process of change and transformation is going to unfold. But I think being in a personal position of openness and willingness to learn and willingness to change is important. And this also requires one to seek out support and help if one is in a position where they have their own mental health struggles or physical struggles that might detract from their training. And so getting your support structures in place and seeking out any additional help or support that you might need to put you in a position where you can undergo this personal and professional transformation process, I think would stand in good stead. Does that mean going to therapy and seeing a psychologist? Sometimes. It's not a criteria at UNISA that you have to have gone through psychotherapy yourself, but I do often find it very beneficial and helpful for applicants, and even more so students who are in the program, to go through that process themselves. I think another do is to make sure that you've got some kind of experience prior to selections. And that can include volunteer work, for example. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have counselling experience or psychotherapy experience particularly, but some kind of volunteer work or upskilling yourself or even work experience, I think is important as well to transition into a professional master's program. It can be quite challenging, though, if you are coming from a work context where you are employed full-time, and transitioning into a full-time master's program can be difficult because you are now a student again, you don't get paid, and so it comes with its own challenges. but just make sure that you have some kind of experience before applying. Also, I think not to give up, and you'll see in one of the quotes I have later from one of our previous applicants, is not to give up. Research the field, research the different programs across the country, and apply to as many universities as possible. Don't only apply to one university. I think you limit your chances there quite significantly. So make sure that you apply to as many universities as possible. But if you don't get selected in the first year of applications, don't give up. It doesn't mean that you won't ever be accepted or that you shouldn't be a clinical psychologist. It just means for that year, a different cohort of students were selected, and that you can absolutely be successful in future years. Having said that, though, I also think it is a good idea to explore alternatives and to have a plan B in place in case by year 2, 3, or 4 of your applications that you still don't get accepted, that you at least have a plan B, whatever that might look like for you. But don't, and I suppose that just speaks to not putting all your eggs in one basket and hoping to be selected in a very competitive program. You can always in that time study further, continue working, do more volunteer work, or qualify in a different arm of the profession. And in future, if you feel you still want to do clinical psychology, you can always circle back and apply again. And I think the biggest part of this process is to be yourself, because there is no one recipe or formula or one type of person that we look for in our selections process. The best thing you can do is to be yourself, and make sure that you present yourself to the selections committee, right from your paper application all the way through to interviews if you are selected. And that, I think, should be accompanied with a sense of self-awareness and a level of authenticity, where you get to showcase yourself to the panel. And so we don't have any surprises later on if you are selected, in terms of who you are, the type of support you need, the type of student you are, etc. And so really it is around being yourself, but having a level of self-awareness, being comfortable with who you are and being open to diversity, and being authentic in who you are as a person. I know applicants really try to put the best foot forward and present as someone who knows all their psychological theory, and try to come across as a clinical psychologist already. And that's not what we're looking for. Yes, we want to see your knowledge. Yes, we do rely on your previous experiences and your previous studies. 100% we do. But we're not looking for an already made up professional, because that will speak to your trainability going forward. And so be yourself, but have a level of self-awareness and comfort in being uncomfortable in this process. If we look at some of the don'ts, I think one of the important things to remember is not to apply just because you think it is a prestigious career, because it is going to demand of you 4 years of your life, and it's really going to stretch you in ways that most people don't expect. Like I said, it's not just an academic program. There is a big focus on personal and professional development, which you can appreciate, I'm sure, in the work that we do. But also not to take any rejections or not being successful in an application personally, because this is not a representation of something that we've deemed, not a great quality, for example. So don't take it personally. If you can just keep in mind, over 1,000 applications, we take 8 to 10. We have to have a very stringent process to get to our successful cohort. And it really is not a personal slight against anybody. And also don't only apply at one university. I think I spoke to that in the do section as well. I know many students often say, I only want to go to this university, or I live close to this university, so I'm only applying here. And that's fine, and that's great. in and of itself. But if you really want to be part of this profession, I think you do limit yourself. And so apply to as many universities as you possibly can. The flip side of that means you might need to relocate. So if you are accepted at a university in a different province or even a different town, you might need to relocate to be there, to be on campus. And also make sure that you are prepared for your interviews or for your applications. We often find applications are submitted and you can see it's done in a rush or without a thoughtfulness put into it. Documents are not added or the wrong documents are submitted. And so be prepared as far as you can possibly be prepared, and then be open to the process of selections and whatever that might bring with it. And also not to falsify or misrepresent information. And I put that in as part of the don'ts, because unfortunately we do see that year in and year out, where marks are inflated and incorrect documents are submitted in support of those marks. And so if your supporting documents, and you'll see that if you do apply to UNISA, there's a long list of supporting documents that we do require. We check all of that. So don't falsify or misrepresent any of that information. I think that will put you on the not selected for that year pile. And then just to end off with some past students or past applicants, I should have written their past applicants' experiences who have been selected over the years. I just included these just to give you some idea of, I suppose, not giving up and knowing that the selections process will be grueling, it will be difficult, it will be anxiety provoking. And if you are selected, and you look back, it will be worth it. I know when you're not selected, it might have a very different feel and a very different outcome for you. But I thought this might be helpful just to have some idea from previous applicants. And so I'll read them for you. The first one said, my experience with selection week was fueled with feelings of being both excited and nervous. The one thing I can attest to is that there's no right or wrong answers. All you need to do when you step into a selection week is be yourself, as authentically and boldly as possible. And I suppose somebody who may not have all the correct answers theoretically maybe, but who presents themselves in an authentic and empathic way, who's self-aware and is able to think critically but also flexibly, would probably be chosen over somebody who might have all the correct theoretical information but really is very self-unaware or rigid, etc., rigid in their thinking. The second applicant said the master's selection process can be grueling, intimidating, and highly taxing, but it is also an opportunity for growth and self-reflection. During the year that I was finally accepted at UNISA's program, I attended 5 selection processes. This was incredibly demanding physically, mentally, and emotionally. But looking back now, I treasure that experience because it showed me what I was capable of and increased my self-confidence I not have anticipated. I also met some amazing fellow candidates along the way now, that I now count as good friends. The whole process has been highly valuable to me. And then I found the selections at UNISA to be quite intense because each passing day that I came, I didn't know what to expect. I wouldn't wish the suspense that comes with waiting for an email informing you whether you made it to the next phase or not. However, I believe that I was allowed to be myself, and that was the greatest strength. And that's just some references for some of the information I included. So that's my presentation. I'll be around for a while if there are any questions later. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you, Dr. Nikki. That was an amazing presentation, very insightful. I hope everybody was taking notes, very informative. I know I gained a lot from not just her presentation, but all our speakers' presentations today. So please give her a round of applause, give her flowers, all the love. It was an amazing presentation, we really do. Thank you. Okay, so now we finally have reached the point that everybody has been waiting for, our question and answer session. Please, guys, very important, in the chat before we proceed any further, I'd like to address our evaluation link. Okay, so one of my colleagues, Ms. Lala Diksha, posted our evaluation link in the chat. Please, please, please click the link and evaluate our workshop. We will really appreciate the feedback. So we use all of that information to help guide our next, the next time we plan and organize our workshops and events. So please, we do need your feedback in that regard. So please click that and make sure that you complete the evaluation link. I also pinned it at the top of the chat. Previously, she also posted another link to the student mentorship program. So this is to basically help you get allocated a mentor who may be a final year student or already graduated in whatever field that you're under, and they will help mentor you throughout your study. So if you feel as though you may need that kind of assistance, please look further up in the chat. Okay, she posted it again. Please look into the chat and sign up for the UNISA student mentorship program. Okay, and also I'd like to address, I saw a lot of questions about the presentation and the slides. We have addressed it a few times in the chat, but I will say this out, say this to you guys as well. If you want the chats or the presentation slides or any other information that was shared throughout this workshop, please don't worry. It is being recorded, and everybody who registered for the Psychology Professionals workshop will get access to the recording. Okay, so if you need any more information or you want to revisit anything that was presented today, you will get access to the recordings. Okay, so now we can move on to our question and answer session. I would like to request that we please keep our mics and cameras muted. This will make everything easier for everybody. So what I'll do is that those who posted their questions in the chat, I will try and reserve some time to read a few, and perhaps some of our presenters will also answer the questions that were posted in the chat, and then I will also call out a few people who raise their hands. You'll unmute your mic, and then you'll be given the platform to ask your question. Please make your questions brief so we can try and attend to as many questions as possible while we still have the time. Okay, so I'll start off first by, is there anybody who has, I think we have a few hands. Let's see. Okay, we have Ngiba. Is it Aniki Ngiba? I see you have a hand raised. Do you have a question for us? You can unmute your mic and ask our speakers.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It is Aniki Ngiba. I just wanted to check in with regards to when submitting a master's application. With most institutions, I'm not sure about UNISA, we have to submit a research proposal. So my question is, how does a research proposal look like? What should it include? What should it not include? And also with regards to the research focus, where do we go about getting the research focus that the institution itself focuses on, so that we also align our research or our research proposal with the research focus of the institution?
Okay, your question is noted. Is there any of our speakers would like to attend to that question? Thank you very much. Dr. Nicola, you can please answer for us.
I'll try and answer as best as I possibly can. So at UNISA, for the Masters in Clinical Psychology, we do not require a research proposal. You go through a full year of developing a research proposal with the research team and a supervisor, but for those universities who do require that, I think it's important for you to check with those universities what they require in terms of the research proposal. I'm assuming all universities will have the standard information that needs to be there, like a research question, literature review, aims, objectives, methodology, etc. But I think it's important to check with each respective university. They will have their own requirements. And in terms of the niche areas or the research focus areas, most departments and in universities have a list of research interest areas that you can check on the website. And if it's not published on the websites, you can always contact the heads of the M&D committees in each department and request that document. But if you just search the department staff list, most of the research interest areas or our research interest areas are published online.
Okay, thank you. If I can, I'd like to add a little bit more information there. If I'm wrong, please correct me. So a lot of the time when it's not necessarily that they're asking for a research proposal, but a concept note, which is not a full proposal as yet. It's just to say that this is what I would like to research. So it's just a brief little concept note to just say what you want to research. And a lot of the time that's required for the master's programs by dissertation. I don't think all coursework programs require a concept note when you make your application. So yeah, I hope I was able to answer that. Okay, then we have another hand. I hope we answered you right and you satisfied Giba. We'll move on to our next question, Matiba. I see you have your hand raised. You can unmute your mic and ask your question, please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, my question, I wanted to verify, because from the information I'm getting, after I've completed the honors with UNISA, it seems like the internship program, the 720 hours required, I strictly have to do it with the university. Is that correct? Because it sounds like that, since I'm gonna need signatories from the psychological supervisor, the head of department and all that. So is it strictly to be done with the university?
Okay, your question is noted. Any one of our speakers, can you guys answer? Matiba, you guys have?
I just have a follow-up question before maybe attempting to answer that question. Is there a particular program you're referring to, or just in general?
No, in general, in terms of this Bachelor of Honors in Psychology.
Okay. Maybe my colleagues who are involved in the B-Psych program might be able to answer that bit. I can only speak at the master's level.
Yes. Do we still have Mr. Isaac Munareng? Are you still with us? I think you'd be able to answer that question.
I am still with you. However, I do feel that is or should be addressed by the HPCSA. The thing is, you must be aware that your honors program is not necessarily a B-Psych equivalent. Right? So if you are speaking to an internship with your honors, you are speaking to a B-Psych or a B-Psych equivalent program. Now, what we usually get is that students who are enrolled in an academic honors have an expectation to do an internship after completing, and it's actually two different programs, right? So basically, for you to do an internship, you need to be enrolled in a B-Psych equivalence, especially when we're talking for the registered counselor or the psychometrist.
Okay.
All
right.
Okay, are you satisfied with your answer?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay.
All right. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to raise their hand? Let me see, before I go read some of the questions in the chat. I see Aniki, did you raise your hand again?
Yes, I'm back again. Just a follow-up question on what was recently asked. You previously mentioned that you need the 65% average to get into the B-Psych program. However, you also said that if you have an honors degree already in psychology, it gives you an added advantage. Is it still the same average of 65 even with the honors degree, or is that only for just undergrad?
So it's only for undergrad. Remember, with your honors, you're at an NQF level 8, right? And with your undergrad, you're at an NQF level 7. So you're basically technically overqualified. So you would not need, or we would not even consider your average if you're coming with an honors qualification.
Okay, thank you. So now I'll head over to the chat because I don't see any hands raised. I'll take a few questions from the chat. Let me start from the bottom. I see Kola Fortune asked, I'm doing an honors in applied psychology and my degree is also applied psychology. What is the difference in terms of work opportunities between psychological counseling and applied psychology? Do we have anyone who can answer that for us? Anyone from the HPCSA maybe? I don't.
Can I get the question again?
It's okay.
Apologies.
So no problem. Kola asked, I am doing an honors in applied psychology. What is the difference in terms of work opportunities between psychological counseling and applied psychology?
The HPCSA does not have any mandate in discussing the job opportunities. We, as a regulator, we are just able to advise on issues of standards, the education, and ensuring that standards are met. But when it comes to job opportunities, it's outside the mandate. And I can also indicate that applied psychology is not in the in the register of the HPCSA. So yeah.
Okay.
Job opportunities, we are not able to advise more in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Do we still have
Thank you.
Mrs. Jessica Bachu? I think she from the Department of Labor. Do we still have you with us? Are you still? I don't think she's still with us, unfortunately. But
yes, I'm still here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Could you answer that question for us if you can?
I'm struggling. I'll be very honest. I'm struggling to answer the question. I have not found. I'm now in my second government department, and previously I worked for NGOs just as a volunteer to get experience to put on my CV and whatnot. So in my experience, I don't often come across opportunities or posts that is specifically looking for individuals who are qualified in applied psychology. Especially in government departments, I don't see it often. Yeah, I don't know, but from the private sector, I'm not sure. So I'm not in a position to give an answer, and I don't want to just say something for the sake of saying something and then I mislead the individual. So I apologize. I really am a bit dumbfounded with that question. However, I can find out and respond via email if the individual could just maybe drop me an email. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Mama Shumabu. I saw your hand was raised. Did you want to maybe answer that question?
Yeah.
Miss Mabu, your mic is muted.
All right, sorry, no, I was speaking to myself. I'm sorry. I just wanted to not actually to answer, but just to add on what they have said, to say with applied psychology, I think it's more closer to industrial psychology and as well as psychometry. So for the student who has done applied psychology, they can look onto it. But the other thing that I also want to check with Nikki is that for someone who has done applied psychology, can they qualify to go into a clinical psychology or counseling psychology field once they completed their honors?
Yes, so at UNISA, and I raised my hand earlier just to check this question because I don't know if I'm on the right track here, but UNISA at honors level, or the honors in psychology, has got 3 different streams. And one of them is the applied psychology, the other one's psychology in a professional context, and I can't remember the name of the third one offhand. All 3 of them or you can apply for a master's in clinical psychology on all 3 of those streams, because it still exits as an honors degree in psychology, as long as there's a research report or a research module that has a research report embedded in it. And we do ask for psych assessment and psychopathology as important modules to have, but they do theoretically lead to an application in clinical psych or in master's programming.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that satisfies your query. Let me take another question. I see there was another hand. I'll only be taking a few more questions because we still had some time. Giba, again, do you have another question?
Yes, sorry for the endless questions. But since yesterday, with regards to the different psychology presentations that were held, what funding opportunities can we look at, sorry, for master's applications? Because the presentations yesterday didn't cover that, and the ones today didn't cover that either as well. What funding opportunities can we explore? I am aware of the National Research Foundation, but to also just echo on what Professor Nikki said, that you can't rely on one institution, in this case, one funding opportunity. What other funding opportunities can we look into that could help us financially with our masters?
Do we have anyone who can answer that?
Yes, Relebogile, I'm here. With regard to the master's program, in the first year at UNISA, you have to actually do it yourself. But once you complete your proposal stage, then you go into the research. Then there is a UNISA that is covering all the masters and PhD students. So it's being advertised every year. Once the student get into the program, then they actually do send the link for applications and everything. And I remember back in the day, also Department of Health and Social Development used to also fund clinical psychology. I'm not sure about the other categories, but for clinical psychology, Department of Health would actually fund the masters and for such programs. So I think it's also important for the students to make thorough research and not rely on the hearsays, because sometimes you will think that there are no opportunities out there, but then when you make the research, you realize how much of the opportunities we are missing on our fingerprints. So I believe that if we actually engage ourselves in researching and seeking for this information, we might be able to get more. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Mamashu. I hope that answered your question regarding your funding. But if you do have any more funding questions, especially with with UNISA, please contact our funding department. You can just find their details on our website. And I see here Elizabeth was asking the question, hi, is the HPCSA rep saying that applied psychology is not recognized by the HPCA, that it doesn't exist? I think, but they can correct me, I think what she meant by that was that it's not recognized or it doesn't exist, but rather as a category that you can, a category of psychology that you'd have to write your board exams for. So there's no board exam for applied psychology, because applied psychology is an honors, I'm speaking for us at UNISA, it's an honors qualification. So you can't really write a board exam for an applied psychology honors qualification. I think that's what she meant, but if she'd like to correct me, she could please do so.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. You are correct. You put it very well. It's not one of those categories that one can be can undergo a board examination for. It's not listed as such. You put it well there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll take two more questions. Let me look for one of the questions here. I see someone but I think the PsyCAP representative left us not long ago. He was tied up in a previous engagement. So please, I see a PsyCAP inquiry here about credits. Please send him an email. I think he posted his email in the chat. Please get his email, Mr. Isaac Munareng, and you can send him your questions via his email. I have a question here from Shamar. Shamar asked, with my community and health psychology degree, would I be able to continue right through to masters? Is there anyone who can answer that for us? I'd like to ask, is this community and health psychology degree, is it an undergrad or an honors degree? Shama, are you with us? So you can answer that for us. Is that an undergraduate or an honors degree? I think they left us. I think they left us. Okay, one more question. Let me try to see if I can find one. Anyone who posted their questions in the chat, would you like to raise your hand quickly so you can ask your question? It will make things more, it will make things easier that way. No? Okay, there we go. This will be our last question that we'll attend to. We have Kopano. Can you please unmute your mic and ask your question? Kopano?
Good afternoon. I would like to ask if we have a research dissertation in honors.
Okay, so I think I can answer that one. In your honors, it's not a research dissertation because dissertation is for masters, it's a research report. So you'll have a research methodology module and a research report module. So I'm speaking for us here at UNISA. I don't know about other institutions. If you happen to have an honors that does not have a research component, you might have to do the research methodology and research report modules as non-degree purposes, so as an NDP. But the honors is a research report and not a dissertation. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Okay, thank you.
All right, okay. Last one, I promise. Kia, can you please unmute your mic and quickly ask your question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. I wanted to find out, I've just recently registered for the honors in community and health psychology. So I wanted to do psychological counseling, but obviously after the 18-month program, will I still be able to do that on the community and health psychology?
Okay, your question is noted. Do we have anyone speakers who can answer that question for her? Oh, okay, I think, let me try and answer that, and if I'm mistaken, one of my colleagues will correct me. I think you can, as long as, because for every master's you need to at least have a research component. So if the modules include psychological assessment and your research methodology, research report, I think you should be able to, because it is a Bachelor of Psychology honors, and you should be able to continue with a master's after that. Granted, you have a research module and psychological assessment. And for clinical psychology specifically, I heard our Dr. Nikki say they'll also look into you having a psychopathology module as well. So I think as long as you satisfy the modules that they need, then you should be okay. Everything should be fine. I hope I was able to answer your question. Okay, thank you very much. All right, guys, so any of the other remaining questions, we have the email addresses of our speakers. They graciously posted their email addresses in the chat. Please look for those emails and email addresses and shoot through your inquiries to them. I think they'll be more than willing to answer you. So we'll move to the last segment of our workshop. This is our vote of thanks. So we had Ms. Lindsay Leshope, who was going to do our vote of thanks for us, but I don't think she's with us, unfortunately. So my colleague, my line manager, Ms. Mamashu Mabua, will then take over and give us the vote of thanks for our workshop. So Ms. Mamashu, are you around?
Hi, I'm sorry, it's Lindsay. I am here.
Oh, okay, cool. That's great, great. Okay, Lindsay, can you please continue and give us our vote of thanks?
Cool. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lindsay Leshope, and I would like to thank you for attending day 2 of our Psychology Professionals Workshop. Now that it has come to a close, I would like to thank our organizers from the UNISA Gauteng region, as well as our program director, Ms. Maifadi, for putting such an informative and comprehensive workshop together. I would like to thank our guest speakers, Ms. Ndlala, Ms. Mokole, Ms. Mtebule from the HPCSA, Mrs. Bachu from the Department of Employment and Labor, Mr. Mona Ring from SACAP, Ms. Ramalepe from Seshoka Mental Health Practitioners, Dr. Hill from the University of Johannesburg, and Dr. Themistocleus from UNISA for enlightening us on the various opportunities available to us as students and graduates. Finally, I'd like to thank you, our colleagues and student body, for attending and participating in this enriching experience. Thank you so much for your unwavering commitment to learning and growth. We are confident that each of you will go on to make meaningful contributions to the field of psychology and beyond. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very, very much, Ms. Leshoba. That was an amazing vote of thanks. We really do appreciate closing us off like that. So everybody, thank you for attending our day 2 and final day of a psychology professionals workshop. It has been such a joyride from yesterday and today. I really appreciate you guys attending our workshop. We look forward to seeing you again next year. Please keep your wits about you and just be mindful of any other workshops we may have for the rest of the year. And yes, thank you very much to our speakers. Thank you very much to everybody. I see the love, I see the hands. Thank you very much. And yeah, we can adjourn. That's the end of our workshop. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a good day. And please don't forget to, if you haven't already, evaluation link. Please click our DCCD evaluation link if you haven't already. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.